Well, I don't think I'm forgetting anything, so hopefully this works. Yep, looks like looks like it's working. Why is lower than what? It should be fine. YouTube is complaining about the bitrate or something. I don't think I can change that on the fly, can I? Oh, apparently I can. Cool. I'm probably gonna have to figure out a better way to start these. Unfortunately, the scheduling thing for live streams requires it's like a calendar thing that you need to commit way in advance, which I'm not doing. Okay, literally, why is it complaining again? I literally don't have anything prepared if people don't post timings. Oh, cool. So we have our first submission. Okay. So a 5800X3D running 3800 with B-die. Not very good B-die. Because that cast latency is awfully high. Not that it really matters that much. It's just yeah, because we're at 1.4, almost 1.5 volts, and it's not doing CL14 at 3800, which is, yeah, that's not great. And we got 16, 15, 15, 15, 30, 45, so pretty typical primary timings. I'm still really surprised. Well, I mean, it's not that surprising that you'd have a kit where slightly less than 1.5 volts isn't enough to do CL14. But my experience is usually it's TRCD that's not that doesn't like to go low without a ton of voltage. TRD's 4.4, good. TFall 16, good. WTRS and L, kind of on the loose side at 4.12. Like, usually I would go with like 4.8. 3.8 works a lot of the time. I think the lowest you can run the WTRs is like 2.6, but that doesn't always work. TWR12, that's also I mean, you know, I would usually expect that to be a 10, but 10, 12, kind of the same thing. TRFC 260, cool. SCL's at 2.2, good. TCWL 14, cool. RTP at 6, cool. TRDWR and WRD 11 and 3, cool. And the dual rank timings are also tightened at 4.466. This isn't gear down mode, and it is 1T command rate, so that kind of compensates for the 16 cast latency. And then it's 1900 synchronized across the board voltages, 1.1 volts on SoC, kind of, well, 1.1 volts on VDDP, which it's a bit weird to see those at the same voltage level, but like it's perfectly fine. And then VDDG voltages at just 1 volt each, which, yep, that makes, well, that, like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, depending on the CPU, you might need, like, more IO die voltage sometimes to get high FCLK to work, but, yeah, some CPUs don't really need anything special there. And this is on a B450 Gaming Plus, so MSI MATX board with the daisy chain topology. Oh, and then we have the address command set up at 56, which is basically to get the gear down mode working, like gear down mode disabled to work. And power down mode is also disabled. So yeah, this is good. Like, you know, it doesn't look like it at a glance, because like you have CL16, but then gear down mode's disabled, 1T command rate. All of the important things are tight. The less important things aren't that tight. So, yeah, cool. So we'll move on to the next submission. Another Ryzen system, another 5800X3D. Okay, so on a B550 Tomahawk MSI board, so daisy chain topology, 3800, 14, 8, 14, 13, 21, 37. So this is really tight. Oh, okay, so you're just running TRAS just minimized, and then TRC is actually at 37. Cool. TRD is at 4.4, TFall 16, WTRS 3.8. Yeah, this is really, TWR 10, TRFC 247, which is kind of a random number for the TRFC, but, you know, something around 250 generally works at 3800. So that makes sense. TRD, like SCL's at 2.2, TCWL at 14, RTP at 6, RDWR at 8, gear down mode disabled, 1T command rate, power down disabled, and apparently, wait, is this, oh, it's single rank. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so you don't need the address command setup adjustment. And then 1.08 on the SoC, 1.95 on the VDDP, 1 volt VDDG CCD, and 1.05 on VDDG IO die, VDIM at 1.52. Cool. So this is really, really tight. But yeah, this is a single rank setup. So I'm not entirely certain why you're actually, the board might default those to that when you're in a single rank setup. It'll give you like the timings will be set properly for dual rank. Yeah, so this is just like a really, really tight single rank setup. Not really much else to comment on here. Good primaries. Like this especially like TRCD 14 at 3800 without like without like a lot of kits would need like 1.55 potentially or higher. So yeah, these are good sticks. Based on the primaries, because the funny thing is a lot of the secondaries and tertiaries will basically be the same across all like B die kits. There's not a ton of variance in those. And Anyway, so we'll move on to the next submission. Which is a Ryzen 7700. Running 6000 on a B650MA MSI board. Yeah, and we have the MSI MS7D77. Okay, and it's running 6000, 64 gigs of memory. Oh, you're running 4x6. Is it 4x16? I mean, yeah, it's not like 6000 should work for 4x16. So that's not too surprising. So yeah, 30, 36, 36, 36, 48. That's kind of a random value for TRAS, but sure, whatever. TRC is loose. Yeah. That is a very loose TRC. TRD's at 4.8, cool. TFAW 20, cool. WTR's at 6.16. Fine, though WTRS would usually can go lower than that. TWR 48, cool. TRFC 500, 400, 300. Wait, what AGSA is this on? But anyway, so yeah, TRFC 500, refresh interval completely maxed out. The dual rank timings are on auto, which is bad. You should adjust them off the top of my head. I don't remember what they should be, but I think it's like I think it's like 6688 or it's like it's 6688 if I remember correctly. Yeah, it should be 6688 for the same DIM and different DIM timings. RTP at 12, cool, and SCL's at 4.4, cool. WRD at 2, yeah, so those are all fine. So the only thing I'd really change here in terms of timing is the dual rank timings. I would lower them because you're losing a bunch of like bandwidth basically to that. Also, if you're on an up-to-date AGSA, the FCLK thing where like 2033 is like way faster than 2000, that's not a thing anymore. That was like a bug with some of the old AGSAs where if you ran 2033 FCLK, it would actually bump the memory clock to like 6100, like it would bump the memory to 6100. Which there isn't a ratio for, so it's like a super weird bug. Like, I don't know how that works, but that was what was happening there, and that's why it would give you like a big performance boost over running just 2000 FCLK. But yeah, on like on up-to-date up-to-date AGSAs, you want to either run the FCLK at 2000 or like 2100 or higher. You don't want to be running it at 2033 because that's just slower. Like 2000, yeah, like you either want to run 2000. So a 2-to-3 ratio with the memory, or you want to run it like really like as high as possible. That is a ton of SoC voltage for DDR5 6000. I kind of don't think that's necessary. Even if this is a 4x16 setup, I don't think that should be necessary for 6000. CLEO VDDP looks fine. Memory voltages, that is a surprisingly low VDD for TCL30. VDDIO, yeah, that all looks good. VDD MISC doesn't matter like at all, so let's just ignore that. And then I'm gonna assume these are auto terminations and drive strengths. So yeah, that looks like good timings, but the FCLK, like if you're on a up-to-date BIOS, like you should either be running it higher or you should be running it at 2000. And then the SoC voltage, I mean, I don't think that I would necessarily bother with lowering it unless you're trying to push FCLK. Because generally speaking, if you're trying to push really high FCLK, like max FCLK typically doesn't happen at max SoC voltage. It typically happens somewhere between like 1.1 and 1.2 SoC. So yeah. And then, oh yeah, also the dual rank timings. Like, fix those, because they are very loose right now. Oh, next submission. we've got a Intel system on an ASRock. Oh no, the screen too big. Okay. Wait. What? Why aren't there more pixels? Anyway, we've got a ASRock Z790i Lightning Wi-Fi running DDR5 8400. I've heard a lot about this board being really good. I guess it really is really good. So, yeah. Wait, what do we have down here? Well, I'll still go with really good, because even if this is only like, 20 minutes of Y-Cruncher, I've never had 8400 run even a single loop of Y-Cruncher for me. And I also don't have one of these boards, so I don't know, there's like a chance that if I had one of these and I tried to run Y-Cruncher, it would just instantly crash, but yeah, I've given up on testing Intel memory overclocking, so I am not going to be testing that. So that's kind of that. But yeah, running 8400 at all is impressive. I don't know that I would necessarily say this is stable, but it's a lot more stable than anything I've managed at these kinds of speeds. Anyway, in terms of timings, we've got 38, 48, 48. That seems about right for this kind of frequency. TRAS is really loose, which that's not ideal from a performance perspective, but it's not that important as a timing. Also, these are 16 gig DIMMs, not 24 gig DIMMs, which is more impressive, because the 24 gig Hynix memory chips are they're generally easier to clock really high. So yeah, TWR's at 48, TRFC's at 671 and 545, cool. TRD's at 12.8, yeah, which at this kind of frequency, that makes sense. TWR, L, and S, wait, those don't matter. WRDSG and WRDG, these? Well, I've never been able to run frequencies this high, so I honestly actually just don't know what kind of timings to expect for these kinds of speeds there. RTP's RTP doesn't matter. What's your RD pre? Wait, this is just 23 on both of them. Right, because, okay, yeah. Okay, that's kind of, I'm assuming that's actually auto. Oh, and you get the really fun TWR isn't actually a thing on Intel CPUs, so you get TWR and ASRock timings being different from TWR and memtweakit, because they both use different equations for calculating the TWR, because there isn't a TWR register, but TWR pre at 91 and TWR PDEN at 92, that's not auto. It is tightened. I'm just not sure what it actually works out to in TWR equivalents. 16.8, 22, 22, 16.8. Yeah, the other timings, those look fine. Yeah, so this looks good. There's nothing, or more I don't know what to expect at these kind of speeds with Intel CPUs. And in terms of settings, VDDQ TX at 1.4, SA at 1.3, VDD2 at 1.4, and memory at 1.545 and VDDQ at 1.5. I can't, none of these voltages are, so high that I would consider them dangerous. And I can't comment on, the thing is, I can't comment on, stability for Intel systems, because, I'm clueless when it comes to that, at these kinds of speeds. Also because it just varies so much from, motherboard to motherboard and BIOS version to BIOS version. So, yeah, it's cool. I don't, unfortunately, have any, useful commentary to make on this kind of thing, because, yeah. Next submission. Ooh, we've got somebody pushing PyPrime to its limits, I guess. Yep, that definitely looks like pushing it to its limits at under 6 seconds. Ooh. 45, almost, wait. Okay, we have a proper CPU-Z readout. Yeah, so almost 4600 CL14. Which is, like, the funny thing is with 11th gen, the goal was always like 4800 CL14, but the memory controller on 13th gen, 14th gen, 12th gen gets really upset when you set the memory voltage really high. So you kind of can't run like 4800 CL14 because that typically requires, even on really good sticks, it'll require like over 1.9 volts. And a lot of, like, in my experience, a lot of the time with LGA 1700, you set the memory voltage above 1.9, and the memory controller just gives up and refuses to post. So, yeah. That, like, this is impressive. And also we're on a MSI Pro Z690A Wi-Fi motherboard, which isn't really that surprising. MSI's DDR4 boards for LGA 1700 seem to be basically the best. So yeah, is this 2-to-1? This is, wait, no, this is 1-to-1 mode, isn't it? So this is like a crazy CPU. Oh yeah, memory controller frequency at 2286. So yeah, this is a crazy CPU. That's insane for 1-to-1 mode. Anyway, for the timings, 14, 14, 6 on TRC DWR. I'm not entirely certain that's a real value at that point, but like, if it is, like, it makes sense that it would work because of how TRC DWR works. TRP at 11, TRAS 19. I'm really not sure about the whole setting TRAS below 28 on Intel CPUs because the Intel documentation says that it bottoms out at like 28. Then again, the Intel documentation says a lot of things, and people, like, you know, it doesn't seem to be very reliable. So, anyway, command rate 2T, which, yeah, at this kind of frequency, that makes sense. TRDSGDG 44, TRFC 220, TREFI completely maxed out. RTP at 5, TFAL 16, TCKU 4, yep. So this is slammed. And then 7, 4, 12, 12, 7, 4, 24, 19. Oh, man. This is like lower WRD timings than what I would normally set with BDI for like daily setups. TWR pre. I wonder what kind of voltage this is at on the memory. Because, like, I'm going to guess this is like 1.7 something. 1.8. Okay, yeah, so that's, yeah, I was thinking like 1.75, 1.8-ish because, like, in my experience, 1.9 wouldn't post. So yeah, that makes sense. Like, cool setup. Anyway, let's move on to the next submission. And that didn't work for some reason. Give me a second. That did. Cool. We've got a Intel system and some Kingston memory sticks. Wait, is this... What capacity is this? We've got... Oh, man. 32 gigs. So, wait. Oh, 16 gigabit CDI. Man, I really wanted to try some of the, like, high-density Hynix memory chips for DDR4, because they're, like, there are some terrible ones. Like, I have some high-density Hynix, and it wasn't very good. But as far as I know, some of the later revisions should actually clock really high, which is, I think, what we're looking at here. Yes, 4533, 2023. I'm surprised your cast latency is so high. Does it not scale with voltage? Because usually, like, I would have expected that to be, yeah, like, you'd be able to run that lower. Is this 1-to-1 or 2-to-1? 1T command rate makes me suspect it's 2-to-1 mode. Yeah, I'm gonna, like, this is also... Wait, what's the total memory capacity? Why doesn't it say anywhere? 2-to-1 at 1.4425. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, also the latency is kind of high for it to be 1-to-1 mode. Anyway, timings, we've got 20, 23. Yeah, I would have thought... Well, it is Hynix, though, so I guess that makes sense, because that's, like, the main difference between, like, Micron B-die and then, like, all the other... Like, Micron 16 gigabit Rev B, Samsung B-die, and then, like, everything else is that, like... Micron is looser than B-die, but it's still less loose than Hynix. So, at least on the primaries. But yeah, so 20, 23, 23, 40, 1T in 2-to-1 mode, so that's 2T effectively. TRRD's at 4.4, cool. TRFC at 610, refresh interval 65,000, TWR 15. I don't know what to expect in terms of TWR. Actually, TWR pre 40, WR PDEN 38. Yeah, I still don't know what to expect these memory sticks to do in terms of TWR. Though in my experience, well, a lot of the DDR5 Hynix memory chips do like really low write pre-charge. So, I would think you could maybe tighten that, the TWR pre-timing. But anyway, RTP at 8, that makes sense. Yeah, that's pretty typical DDR4 things. TFAL 16, cool. TCK 2. I'm not sure that does anything once you set it below 4. TCWL at 18. Did you try lower TCWL values? Because sometimes, like, there are, like, some memory chips can do, like, ridiculously low cast write latency compared to their, like, read latency. Read cast latency. Anyway, in terms of the back-to-back timings, 8, 4, 16. I'm assuming in 2-to-1 mode, like, having 7 wouldn't work. Yeah, I haven't actually gone and, like, checked that with DDR4, but with DDR5, that's definitely a thing, is, like, you punch in an odd number here, and it just gets rounded up to an even value. I guess one way you could test it is you could set your DG to 3, and if it doesn't crash, then it's getting rounded up. Anyway, 8, 4, 16, 16. These seem looser than they probably need to be. 8, 4, 34, 26. I would... These might also be worth trying to tighten. And this is a dual rank setup, so yeah, wait, 8, 11. I am not sure, because Intel has a few platforms or CPUs where the DR and DD timings are swapped around. So personally, I would prefer to see DR and DD to be the same value, at least if you're actually like configuring them, because the funny thing is like, yeah, you could like if these are 32 gig sticks, it should be the DR timing that like controls the read to read different rank. But I'm not sure if it's 11th and 12th or if like 12th fixed this. I think it's 11th gen, where it was like backwards, where like DD, which is different dim, would actually be different rank, and DR was different dim. Which the workaround to that is just set both of them to the same thing, and then you don't have to worry about it. Honestly, I'm kind of... Like, it kind of makes sense to have separate registers for them, but at the same time, I find it like, I think it's pretty unlikely that your different rank and different dim timings wouldn't be able to be the same thing. Right? Like, I wouldn't expect there to be enough of a difference between them that you'd actually have to, that you'd want separate settings for them. Yeah, no, this looks interesting. It's certainly something different. We don't see, like, high-density Hynix setups, like, at all. Anyway, we've got the first super chat in, so let's take a quick look at that. Hynix MFR. On Ryzen. Oh, this is so sad. At least it's a 5800X3D, so the memory like basically doesn't matter. So this is 8 gigabit Hynix MFR. And basically it does not it doesn't clock very high, so we're at 3200, but at least it's a 5800X3D. We don't have we do have an FCLK readout. Right. Now, the thing with the FCLK is at 3200, I am like 99% certain you would get better performance by running the FCLK at 1866. Unless, wait, doesn't... I think there's a Ryzen platform where, like, if you try to desync the FCLK, your UCLK gets forced to half speed, which would be bad. I think that might be 5000 series, because I tested the FCLK thing on 3000 series, where that was a thing. Like, if you were at 3200, because the FCLK affected... Actually, I'm not sure if it only matters for dual CCD CPUs. But anyway, this is something I would potentially try with this setup, is like try bump the FCLK to 1866 and see what happens. Because that might end up being faster. An 1866 FCLK, you could maybe get a little bit more performance, or it'll be slightly slower. And 1866 FCLK isn't really anything that would require like some crazy adjustments to achieve stability. So that really should be like, set the FCLK to 1866. If the performance gets worse, don't do that. If the performance gets better, leave it, right? Yeah, so I would definitely check if 1866 FCLK for this wouldn't maybe be better in terms of performance. Because yeah, when your memory clock is this slow, having the Infinity Fabric synchronized to it is like you can actually offset the desync penalty by just having the FCLK run so much faster. Similar to like how Ryzen 7000 behaves. Anyway, in terms of timings, TCL 14, which yeah, that's doable if you have enough. Which yeah, you don't need a ton of voltage for that, even on Hynix chips. 14, 10, 16, 17, 23, 56. That is a weird combination of TRP, TRAS, and TRC. Because that TRAS is like TRP 17 and TRAS 23 would make me think like you should be at like 40 for TRC, but I guess that's not stable. I'm also not sure why your TRDS is at 5. I don't think there's any DDR4 memory chips that can't do 4. TRRDL, that one doesn't always do 4, but TRRDS, that one should basically always do 4. TFAW at 20, which, I mean, with these TRDs, that makes sense, but, I would, try 4, 5, 16 instead. WTRS 4, WTRL 12, TWR 12. Yeah, I don't know what to expect from Hynix memory sticks for this. Though at 3200, I would have thought these might be able to be lower. TRFC at 464. Shouldn't 8 gigabit Hynix be kind of okay at TRFC? Oh wait, no, I'm thinking 4 gigabit. Not yeah, okay. Nope. Yeah, that makes it okay. That's fine. TRFC, that's probably the correct TRFC value. And then TRSCL's at 4.4, so that's good at least. And this is a single rank setup. Yeah, so RTP at 6, TCWL 14, TRDWR 7, TWRD at 1. Cool. So yeah, the only things I would do is I would check if 1866 FCLK might not be faster, then TRDS to 4, I would try that, and TFAW to 16. And yeah. So that's that. Oh, we have another super chat, so let's take a look at that. And we've got another 5800 X3D. Man, why are there so many 58? I mean, I guess that makes sense. It's a fast CPU. It's an AM4 is popular, so. But I'm just surprised that there's so many 5800 X3Ds here. Anyway, so 3600 on Micron Rev E-Die. 8 gigabit. And this is dual rank, yeah, so 2 by 16 or 4 by 16 doesn't really matter. B550 Tomahawk, yeah, on an MSI board that really shouldn't matter very much. 3600 is like surprisingly low, especially like, yeah, I would have thought like I would have probably pushed it to 3733. That doesn't, like 3800, the 1900 FCLK for some CPUs can be kind of a tall order, but 3733 is like, I don't think there's any CPUs that can't do 3733 and 1866 FCLK. Anyway, in terms of timings, we've got 16, 10, 20, 16. Yeah, so that's Micron TRCD right there. Though, are these are Crucial memory sticks, aren't they? Crucial usually does pretty good TRCD. At 3600, I would have thought like 19 should work. Or even 18. This is some like Corsair XMP style primaries. TRS 36, TRC 56, cool, whatever. Yeah, like the TRC makes sense. The TRP and TRAS, not as much. I mean, mostly the TRAS, but yeah, that's fine. TRDS at 4, TRDL at 6, TFall 16, cool, that makes sense. WTR is 410, that makes sense. TWR 16, that's on the loose end of the spectrum. Not that like this timing, the thing is TWR, you can run it you can usually, a lot of the time you can run it at like 10. It's also not that important because it's just like the amount of time after a write command to closing a row, so not super important from a performance perspective. TRFC 535, which, yep, that sounds about like that's typical Micron things right there. SCL's at 4.4, so good, and 2436 makes me think this is a 4x16 setup. I mean 4x8 setup. Because, yeah, if it was a 2x16 setup, this wouldn't work. Also, you serious, bro? 5 minutes of Karhu? Why even include a 5-minute stress test in a screenshot like this? Like, this is like, I mean, I guess it's like, oh, it doesn't instantly crash. So, oh well. And then we've got 101. Oh, that's probably why you're at 3600. Yeah, so you're actually at like 3636 on the memory. We've got that 1% BCLK overclock. Okay, so instead of 3733, I would probably try 3666. Also with Micron, like, you could use more voltage to get better. Actually, you shouldn't even need more voltage for lower TRCD. I'm really confused as to why it's so high, unless like later production, like, I don't think any of the kits I have from Crucial would struggle to do TRCD like 19 at 3600. Actually, like, a lot of them will do 18 at 3600. So that 20 is like, it's not a big deal, but like I find it surprising. Anyway, cool setup. Got another super chat coming in. Apparently you can post entire Imgur links. I guess maybe YouTube has like some kind of link filtering system or something. Because like I've had so many like random comments complain under videos that like, oh, I'm deleting comments, and it's like, nah, I'm not deleting comments. You put a link in your comment and YouTube blocked it. There's not really anything I can do about that. Anyway, so we have a 7800X3D on a B650 Aorus Elite X, 11 hours of Karhu, and 4 hours of Y-Cruncher. Nitro at 131, yeah, so that's really tight. VDD at 1.49, VDDQ 1.4, 1.4 VDDIO on a B650 Aorus Elite X. 8,000, 24 gig DIMMs, yeah, 8,000, 36, 48, 48, 46, 46, 92. Yep, that makes sense for the 24 gig Hynix memory sticks. TRD's at 812, TFAW at 32, that makes sense. WTRS, because like, you could set it lower than, 4 times 8, your TRRDS, but it's not going to affect anything. WTR 618, cool. TWR 48, cool. TRFC 645, that makes sense. Oh, TRFC 2 and TRFC same bank at 42069. SCL's at 8. TCWL 34, which that's just because of the TCL. TRP at 12. TRDWR 16 and WRD 2. Yeah, so this is just a very solid DDR5 8000 setup with 2200 FCLK, 1.15 SoC, CLD OVDDP at 1.05, which, yep, for like at these kinds of speeds, this voltage actually matters a lot. And it varies by motherboard. Like some motherboards like it really high. Gigabyte boards, in my experience, prefer it kind of low. And yeah, voltages, yep, like for these kinds of settings, as expected. Yeah, so this is just a very good, fast DDR5 setup, like for a 7800X3D. So anyway, next super chat. Got another 7800X3D, but this time much more normal timings. Yeah, just 6,000. Oh, this is, wait. Yeah, this is literally my easy Hynix timings, isn't it? Yep, it is. Man, I really should reshoot that video because that FCLK thing does not work on newer AGSAs. And by newer AGSAs, I mean, like, I think for, like, over a year now, that doesn't work. It's not a big deal, but, like, it's not huge, but, like, it is a thing. Like, it used to be that, yeah, this was, like, and it wasn't massively faster even then, but it was, like, consistently very, like, slightly faster. Because it actually, like, juiced the MCLK and UCLK. But, yeah, on newer AGSAs, that doesn't work anymore. So, for the FCLK, either drop it to 2,000 or try to run it at, like, over 2,100. Because the 2033 thing, that doesn't work anymore. Not like it's going to be like a massive difference again, but like there is a slight latency benefit to running 2000, or if you push it past like 2100, that also has like a latency and bandwidth benefit. Actually, 2000 will also have slightly more bandwidth because the reduced latency will allow overall better bandwidth. But anyway, moving on to the timings, we got 30, 36, 36, 36, 34, 68. Cool, whatever. Like some kits just can't do low TRAS, but the thing is, like, of all the timings you would like tune, TRAS doesn't really make a ton of sense. Anyway, TRDs, we got 4A, TFall 20, cool, WTRS 6, WTRL 16, cool, TWR 48, cool, like that's as low as that goes. TRFC 500, that makes sense. STL's at 4.4, RTP 12, TRDWR 16, yep, TWRD 2, yep, that makes sense. And this is a single rank setup, so we don't have to worry about the dual rank timings. Refresh interval at 50,000. So yeah, this is literally my easy timings for Ryzen. I am not sure why you decided to super chat these. Cannot set voltage lower. Which voltage? VDDIO? That doesn't really matter. Wait, no. Ooh, another Intel setup. So another setup I'm basically useless about, but sure. So we got a Z790 Apex Encore. Wait, why are there two different configurations here? What's this? This is 4300. Oh, this is a DDR4 setup. Okay. Take a look at the DDR5 setup first. So yeah, Z790 Apex Encore at 8533. I don't think my CPUs would be even able to post that. Yep. I'm pretty sure that won't be, well, yeah, no, I don't think that would even post for me. Actually, no, it might. I think the dark, like, once booted 8533, and I think it also immediately blue screened when, like, Windows tried to load, but it did boot. So, that's something. And yeah, we got 20 minutes of Y Cruncher, which, like I mentioned with the previous Intel submission that was at 8400, yep. I mean, I can't do this at all, so that's cool. 36, 49, 48. Wait, this is 16 gig sticks again. TRAS at 61, yeah. So these are like actually tightened up primaries. I'm surprised you're on an Apex and using ASRock timing configurator instead of memtweakit. Anyway, TWR48. Cool. I mean, yeah. Well, again, Intel CPUs technically don't have a TWR register. But that is like this is like calculated from the TWR pre and TWR PDEN timing. Anyway, TRFC2N per bank we have 520 and 440, so that makes sense for this kind of frequency. TRDL 74. So yeah, that's very tight. WTRL, WTRS, like at this frequency, that is very tight. WTRL and S, well, actually these two also don't exist. Those would be the SGDG, 64 and 48. Yeah, so that's tight. And then RTP 12, TFAL 16, TCWL 34. And then also like TCK4 refresh interval at 65,000. Oh, I already went over TCKE. Read to read same group 16. That makes... I'm honestly kind of surprised that doesn't have to be higher at 8533. No, yeah, cool. Like, I guess it doesn't. Like, I would have thought like, maybe it would need 18 at these kinds of frequencies, but I guess not. 2020 on the TRDWRs, that makes sense. And then right to right same group is also 16. And then all the dual rank timings are set to 0 because they don't matter. So you can just kind of set them to whatever the hell you feel like, including 0. So that's the DDR5 setup. And yeah, that looks like a really, like in terms of timings, really dialed in DDR5 8533, and voltage is 1.25 SA, 1.36 VDD QTX, 1.475 VDD2. That is, oh wait, no, that's VDD2. Yeah, so that's fine. 1.56, 1.5 on the memory. Yeah, makes sense. And then we have the DDR4 setup, which is 4300 with BDI doing 4300, 15, 16, 14, 28. So pretty typical BDI primaries, 1T command rate. This is going to be 4300. That's going to be 1-to-1 mode. TWR 12, TRFC 258. So well, not the tightest TRFC I've ever seen, but yeah, it's tight. 4462. Oh, WTRs are just about as low as they get. RTP at 6, TFAL 16, TCWL 14. So TCWL is kind of funky on LGA 1700 because on some boards it needs to be like it has a really rigid relationship to TCL where it's like if it's not, I think it's 1 tick lower, board won't post on some boards with some BIOS versions. Refresh interval 65,000. And then read to read same group as 5.4. Okay, I'm kind of curious about whether that actually works or not. Because that might be getting auto-corrected to 6. Oh, and this is single rank. Okay, so actually maybe... it might be fine. I've not tested a bunch of single rank with LGA 1700, because in my opinion, it's kind of pointless to run, expensive CPUs with single rank BDI, because that just doesn't really make a lot. Like, it's not gonna, like, no amount of tighter timings is gonna make your single rank BDI beat dual rank BDI, right? Because your max frequency in 1-to-1 mode is not really gonna change if you go from single rank to dual rank, and consequently, and the timings that you run for everything except some of the tertiaries are basically the same. So dual rank just kind of wins. So yeah, this might just be because I never tested single rank. Anyway, yeah, WRDs are very tight. So, yep, this is a very dialed in single rank B-die setup, which is a bit, doesn't really make a lot of sense to do, but cool. And then 1.2 SA, that is very low SA for 4300. 1.61 on the memory, and 1.35 VDD QTX. Yeah, that makes sense. So, next submission. MSI board blocks voltage with new BIOS, so it says 1.35, but still uses 1.4, even when I disable Expo and tried manual. I mean, the only MSI board I have is that ITX board. And I do remember encountering some weird voltage behaviors with it, but I don't remember that. Or some... So, yeah, I'd have to check again. Anyway, next super chat. We got another... wait, really? Another 5800X3D? Why do people with 5800X3Ds overclock their memory? This doesn't make any sense. Anyway, oh man, this is a really tight dual rank setup. Oh, at 102 BCLK. Wait, so if this is at 102 BCLK, that's at like 3800. Yeah, that's slightly over 3800. I mean, gear down mode is enabled, but yeah, I don't really, like, for a daily setup, I don't really consider that a like massive, like, I don't really consider that a big deal. And these are 16 gig DIMMs, yeah. So 14, 8, 13, 13, 21, 34, yeah. So this is about as tight as you can get on the primary timings with B-die. At least not, man, this is a really good kit if that voltage reading is correct. Like, a lot of B-die kits will not do TRCD13 at 1.5 volts. Actually, there's quite a few kits that won't even do TCL14 at 3800 at 1.5 volts. So this is a really, really strong kit of B-die. Yeah, because 14, 8, 13, 13, 21, that especially at 1.5 volts, that is about as tight as it's going to get. The only, like, sometimes you might also see something like 14, 13, 12 or 14, 13, 11. But, I mean, I have a kit that does like 14, 15, 12. Or no, was it 14, 15, 13? Something like that. So like TRP sometimes, like a lot of the time will actually go a little bit below TRCD, but yeah, TRCD 13 is at 3800 is not common. So this is a very good kit. TRD SNL at 4.4, cool. TFAL 16, cool. TWR SNL at 4.8, cool. TWR 12. Bit on the looser side, TRFC 240, good. SCL's at 2.2, good. TCWL 12, that makes sense. RTP 12, that's a bit looser. That's like looser than it needs to be. Yeah, that's almost certainly looser than it needs to be. TRDWR 10, cool. TWRD 1, fine. And then same dim, different dim. 4565. Well, okay, these are... okay, yeah, this is a dual rank setup, so this should be correct. I do still prefer... Like I mentioned earlier, this really... I do think that bug is exclusive to one generation or a couple generations of Intel CPUs where the dual rank and different DIMM timings got swapped around. But, like, because of that, I do prefer, like, setting same dim, different dim to the same thing rather than two different values, just to sort of take the guesswork out of, like, hey, is the memory controller actually addressing the different ranks correctly? So, yeah, but I'm, like, 4.6 is correct. The 5.5 part is like, well, that probably works because those two timing, well, the DD, like, the right-to-right DD5 probably only works because this is a dual rank DIMMs. But yeah, personally, I would have set that to 4.4.6.6. But this, like, this should be working correctly. So, there's not a reason to changes. I just, I prefer it when it's like there's no possibility of it being wrong. Anyway, and here we have a photo of the setup. And that photo is from such an awkward angle and so blurry that we can't really see the setup. Oh, I guess the point is the fan angled towards the memory sticks. Clever. Right, well, how is the other end of that supported? Is it like resting on the 24 pin or something? I'm guessing it's resting on the 24 pin, and that's why it's like not, like moving. Or maybe it's just like balanced in that position. That would be so awkward. Isn't 4000, 14, 15, 15 better? No, because you can actually get that as an XMP bin. Like 1413 at 3800 would be like equivalent, that would be vaguely equivalent to like 1414 at 4000. And there are kits that'll do flat 14s at 4000. Those are the kinds of kits that do 1413 at 3800. Anyway, so that's this setup. So now I am not sure. Wait, is there just like, okay, I'll just grab a random submission at this point. Then we have Samsung E-Die. Oh boy. Prepare for suffering, I guess? Yup. Oh boy, this is so bad. Oh, it's a laptop. It's so much worse. Oh, well, that makes sense. Okay, so we're at 2933. Laptop RAM is frequency locked. A question, why is my TRDS different on hardware info but okay in ASRock timings? Yeah, I don't know why that would be. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. What CPU is this? It could be like a error in like with the hardware info not reading the registers correctly. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. If your TRDS was at 18, your performance would be so bad. Like, unbelievably terrible. Also, a lot of CPUs, though, I think this is an Intel, I'm assuming. So that would actually support a TRDS that loose. Probably. But yeah, at TRDS 18, like, your performance would be absolutely atrocious. I mean, one thing you could do if you're really worried about it is, like, if you can change your timings, you could set your TRDS to 18 and see if the performance gets worse. And if it does, then evidently hardware info is just, like, not reading it correctly. As for why that happens, I don't know. I don't know how hardware info reads memory timings. So Yeah, anyway, 29, 33, 16, 18, 18, 38. I mean, I'm assuming you don't have the ability to change the memory voltage, so the primaries are just kind of whatever. Though I would assume TRAS could probably go lower than 38. 4 on the TRDs, which makes sense. WTR is at 36, 29. At 2933, these could probably go. No, that varies by memory chip. Like some memory chips can't do these super low. But they might be able to go a bit lower. TRD SG and like read. I think the same group timings probably don't need to be an 8. Like 8-4 could. Yeah, 2933, I think that could probably, like, you could try tighten that. I don't know if your BIOS gives you access to it, though. Yeah. You should. I would definitely try to tighten the cast write latency, though. There's no reason for it, unless, again, it's not accessible in the BIOS. But yeah, I would basically try. So I don't know what timings you have access to. TREFI at 22,000 is kind of random, but then you're in a laptop, so you probably, like, your memory sticks are probably cooking, so you don't really want to set this super high or you're going to have, like, massive instability. Especially when you actually, like, use the laptop and it gets hot, right? That would probably be quite a problem. So, yeah, I guess I wouldn't, yeah, for a laptop, I think I wouldn't want to, yeah, probably wouldn't want to mess with TREFI. But I would definitely try to lower cast write latency. The WRDs could maybe be lower. And then, yeah, read to read same group and write to write same group. I would try to lower those. Because I think at 2933, it should be possible for them to be tighter than just 8. So, yeah, and we have another super chat, so let's take a look at that. I am bad at copy pasting links. Ooh, a 5950X running 64 gigs of memory. Kind of need the capacity on a X570 Aorus Extreme. I use the 10 gig. Yeah, fair enough. Ooh, this is like dual rank B die. Man. Okay, well that explains the 3636. I wonder which revision of the Aorus Extreme you have, because the early version of that board, like the launch version, is terrible in terms of memory overclocking compared to the later version. Or even compared to a lot of other motherboards for AM4. I unfortunately have the like launch version, so yeah. Anyway, let's go through these timings. 3666, 14, 10, 15. Oh, gear down mode's enabled. Yeah, because with 64 gigs, I don't, like, I wouldn't really want to have to spend time figuring out how to get that disabled. 14, 10, 15, 14. So pretty typical B-die timings, especially for 1.45 volts, which with this many memory sticks next to each other, like, you don't necessarily want to be running super high memory voltages because the cooling starts becoming kind of a problem. Especially if the memory sticks have some like really fat heat spreaders, because then it's like also impossible to actually get airflow in between the memory sticks, right? Because it's all heat sink. But heat sinks don't work if there's no air moving through them. So, you know, it makes things a bit awkward when your memory stick is as thick as the memory slot. Anyway, but yeah, the primaries, like, for this voltage, this frequency, these make sense, and they're good. Like, you can get B-die kits that are worse than this. TRAS 28, TRC 40, your TRC is a bit low, or, like, you'd probably want to lower the TRAS or raise the, well, you don't have to raise the TRC, but as it is, your TRC is effectively 42. So I would suggest lowering the TRAS if you wanted to actually be TRC 40, because 14 plus 28 is 42, not 40. So if you want 40, this should be 26, which should work. That really shouldn't be a problem. Anyway, TRD's SNL at 4.4, but your T-fall is at 18. Like, to be fair, not the worst weird thing that I've, not the worst idea I've ever seen. Because it will be, like, potentially, it might actually be necessary for stability. I find it kind of unlikely that you'd have a memory setup where, like, the 4 activate window has to be, like, if it's not 18, it's too low, but it's not impossible. And there are some BDI kits out there where, like, you can't set TRDL to 4. And this could be, like, an alternative of, like, this won't necessarily be... Because, like, your other... I'm thinking, like, the other alternative would be, like, 4, 5, 16. I think 4, 5, 16 would probably be better, though, from a performance perspective. And I think it's very unlikely that you wouldn't be able to do, like, 4, 5, 16. Because usually it's TRRDL that can't do, like, T-fall 16. Like, if you can't just do straight, like, 4, 4, 16, then it's probably because of TRRDL. And yes, an alternative is you run 4, 4, 18, but this means that even when you're just doing TRRD, like, the short act-to-act short timing, which is 4, like, you're still adding that 2-cycle delay to that, which is probably unnecessary. It's not a big deal from a performance perspective, but, like, I think 4, 5, 16 would actually just be kind of faster. But, you know, I also don't know that I'd spend... Like, if you have this stress... Like, if you have this validated as being stable, and, you know, you do work with the system, I would not spend time trying to, you know, go from 4, 4, 18 to 4, 5, 16 or 4, 4, 16, because it's just not going to make that much of a difference. But yeah, anyway, WTRS we're at 4, WTRL 8, TWR 10, cool, TRFC 312, that is an interesting choice, but then I guess with this many memory sticks and the temperatures that they're probably getting up to, that makes sense, because TRFC does scale with temperature somewhat. SCL's at 3.3. This is another sort of like, well, I'm not, you know, like usually I'd say go all the way down to 2.2, but like this is going to be slightly faster than 4.4, but it's not, you know, like 2.2 sometimes doesn't work. So I mean, sometimes 3.3 doesn't work, but that's less likely than 2.2 not working. So yeah, I guess that makes sense from that perspective. TCWL 14, yep, that makes sense with, well, yeah, that's fine. That doesn't make that much of a difference. RTP 8, that makes sense. TRDWR 8 and WRD 5 is interesting. Like, your WRD is a lot higher than like what I usually expect, and your RDWR is lower than what I usually expect. Oh, but that actually for the TCWL, that makes sense, the RDWR, if I'm not mistaken. Because there's like a relationship between RDWR and TCWL where you can run one of those two can go really low. And it's because this controls like the delay from a read to a write operation. So if your CAS... Yeah, so basically the thing that you're moving around is like, because if you're going from a read I'm actually not... Is it read command to write command? I'm not sure for AMD CPUs. I think it's read burst end to write command, but basically it's like the thing is you don't want to send the write command too early. And so the way you can fiddle with that is like, well, either you can put more delay before, or like you don't want to send the write data too early. So you can sort of, you know, change the command position based on like, well, I can send the command earlier and then wait longer before sending the data, or I can send the command later and then wait less time before sending the data, right? So CAS write latency is like command to data delay, whereas read to write is going to be the delay to the command, except I'm not sure if that's from the read data or from the read command. I think it's from read data for AMD CPUs. Yeah, so like potentially instead of like 14.8, you could probably run 12.10. In terms of performance, I'm actually pretty sure this setup is faster, like 14.8. Not by much, but like it should be, because you're probably going to be transitioning from reads to writes more often than... Actually, it might not even matter. No, you're probably going to be transitioning from reads to writes more often than you're going to be opening a row and just sending like a single write command. Anyway, and then for the dual rank timings, we have 5, 6, 7, 7, which is very odd. But I've never messed with a 4x16 setup, so I am not sure if this is like necessary, because I'd try to run this at 4466. And then I would get very surprised when it crashes. If it crashes. Because, yeah, I would think that 4466 should work for this. Like, you're at 3666. I would try 4466 for the dual rank timings. And then in terms of voltages, 1.175 SOC, cool, CLDO VDDP 0.9. It's a oddly low VDDP, but then your frequency is not that high. I guess that makes sense. VDDGs, I think these are just the auto values for gigabyte boards. VDIM at 1.45, which we already mentioned looking at the primaries. And a kind of high proc ODT for a gigabyte board. Then again, I've never tried to run, 4x16 on a gigabyte board, so I don't know. That might actually be optimal for 4x16 BDI. So, yep. That's that. Let's move on to the next super chat. Samsung C-Die, unstable. I mean, for one thing, I probably wouldn't be trying to run C-Die at 1.35 volts. Yeah. That would be the first thing. I would probably lower the memory voltage to 1.3. I would put the TRF... Actually, it's been a while since I messed with C-Die. TRCD... Yeah, the TRCD timings for 3600, I think you probably... Like, depending on the kit, you might have to run it at, like, 22. So I'd set the primaries to, like, 18, 22, 22... Well, 22, 22, 22... 44, maybe, for TRAS. And then, like, TRC at, like... Actually, I'd probably set TRC to, like, 80 or something just for starting out. SCLs I would set to 4.4. Yeah, I don't think SCLs should have issues. TRRDs, C-Die, funnily enough, at least my experience with C-Die was that it actually did perfectly good TRRDs. It's just the primaries were terrible. TRFC was not amazing. Actually, TRFC wasn't even that bad for, like, non-BDI 8 gigabit memory chips. WTRs weren't good. So, yeah, I'm not sure what I'd set them to. You could just set them really loose initially. Because, yeah, with a Ryzen 3600, I would definitely be doing, like, really trying my best to get, like, 3600 with 1800 FCLK working. SoC voltage, I would probably go to, like, 1.15 on the SoC. I wonder if the terminations might not be wrong. Because these are really weird. Like, disable off RZQ5? Like, that doesn't make any sense. This is a B550M DS3H. So that's a 4-layer daisy chain gigabyte board. Like, these look wrong to me. I don't think these... like, because I'm not even seeing anything with the timings that's like, oh yeah, this is definitely crashing because this timing is too low. Like, no, these all look pretty... like, pretty C-die to me. I mean, maybe this kit, like, really, really hates memory voltage. But yeah, I am not seeing anything fundamentally wrong with the timings. So it's like, it's maybe a voltage issue, maybe a termination issue. Gear down mode is enabled. So, I mean, I guess you could try disabling gear down mode and 2T command rate instead. But yeah, I would suspect like terminations or VDIM would be my suspicions for why this would instantly crash. Or C-die just has like incredible variance from kit to kit, and like this is just way outside anything I've ever seen from C-die. So yeah, that's my suggestions for this. Let's move on to the next super chat. Hopefully that's somewhat helpful, but yeah, I don't have any other like suggestions for this. It's not like I've tested like hundreds of sticks of C-die. Actually, I've not tested hundreds of sticks of any memory chip. So yeah, there are people that do that. I'm not one of them. I don't like. It's kind of funny. It's like I do RAM overclocking not because I think it's fun, but because auto memory settings are terrible. Anyway, oh look, man, I was already ready to go 5800X3D, but no, this is the regular 5800X, no X3D. I mean, no 3D. Yeah, so 5800X on a Mag X570 Tomahawk, so MSI board, with 4x16. Wait, no, they have 4x8. Man, I swear this is the second time I've done this stream. And we're looking at Patriot Viper Steel 4400 CL19 B-die. So, hey, and it's like, wait, this is literally the timings I was running. Wait, no, this is tighter on the TRC and TRAS. But yeah, this is basically what my Viper Steels do. 14, 8, 15, 13, and then TRAS 21, TRC 32. If your TRC is set lower than your TRAS plus TRP, it just gets auto-corrected to TRP plus TRAS, as far as I know. So this is actually probably 34. Anyway, TRD's 4416, good. I mean, it's not a big deal, but yeah, like, I'm pretty sure that's just getting auto-corrected to 34. Anyway, 4416, 48, cool. TWR12, cool. TRFC 300, I guess you just... Like, this is the thing, is like a lot of B-die kits, yeah, you can run the TRFC down to like 250, but 250 and 300 kind of perform very similarly in day-to-day tasks. So it's not like, I don't see it as a huge deal if you just set it to 300 and avoid, because like potentially if you're like, because the thing is there is quite a bit of kit-to-kit variance with TRFC, so you'll have some kits where it's like, oh, I can run like 220, and then other kits where it's like, oh, anything less than 230 doesn't work, or anything less than 240 doesn't work, or... And if you want to avoid all of that, you just set it to 300, because it's basically impossible to get a B-die kit that isn't completely trash that won't do 300. So, yeah, that makes sense. SCL's at 3.3, which is a bit of a strange choice, but, I mean, I guess maybe 2.2 didn't work. And this is going to be faster than 4.4, so why not? TCWL12, cool, RTP6, TRDWR11, WRD1, and different rank, different DIM timings at 4466. So, yeah, and these terminations look like you had to tune them yourself, because I think most of the time it would default to like 731 instead of 733. But if this works, then it works. I'm not going to question it, right? And proc ODT at 36.9, which for an MSI board, I guess that makes sense. SoC at 1.08. That's on the lower end of SoC voltages for 3800. CLDO VDDP at 1.1. Yep, that makes sense. Those are some very high VDDG voltages that aren't doing anything because your SoC voltage is at 1.08. So the voltage regulator that generates VDDG and CCD and VDDG IO die, that is powered from the SoC voltage. And that regulator isn't capable of not reducing the voltage by less than 40 millivolts. So if your SoC voltage, I think it's like 40 or 45, something like that. So if your SoC voltage is 1.08, your absolute maximum VDDG voltage is 1.04. It can't be any higher than that because that voltage regulator, it can't, even if it like just bypass, it can't really like bypass it itself, but if it does nothing to the voltage, it still drops the voltage by 40 millivolts. So that's weird. It's not a problem. Like, if this is working, that's fine. It's just that, yeah, these voltages over here, they're not correct, right? Like, they're not, like, this isn't a measured value. This is, like, a setting. And the real value is SoC voltage minus 40, 45 millivolts, something like that. So, yeah, and then VDIM at 1.5, which is a perfectly sensible voltage for a 4x8 die setup, so I'm not going to complain about that. So, yeah, and power down mode disabled. So yeah, nice 4x8 setup for that 5800X here. Bit strange VDDG voltages, but like it doesn't hurt anything. So yeah, cool. Any tips on how to get it working with gear down mode off? You might want to try setting the address command setup to 56. Actually, try all these setup timings, try set all of them to 56. And what that'll do is, or as far as I know, what that does is it shifts the clock signal, or so it might not be exactly 56, something around 56, but I would start with 56 and maybe try higher, lower, that kind of thing. But the thing with those three is basically what those are is a slight, very small adjustment of the timing of the command address bus relative to the clock. Because basically when you're in gear down mode, or if you have 2T command rate, you don't need perfect clock alignment between the clock and the commands, because the memory stick just has more time to register the command correctly. But if you're trying to run 1T without gear down mode, getting the signal alignment correct is absolutely critical, because if the signal is a little bit off, the memory stick will try to read a command, and the command will not be fully ready yet. The voltage levels will you might be reading it on the rising edge or the falling edge instead of right in the right at peak voltage. I guess I should have tried to draw this, but yeah, so these are basically skews for the signal to try get the alignment correct. And usually you set I think for most setups you just set it to 56, though that might be specifically for gigabyte boards. I'd still try that on an MSI board though, but I'm not I don't know anything else to try get gear down mode disabled for 1T command rate. Also, that's not going to hurt your latency or anything, because it's fractions of a clock cycle, right? Because you're literally just trying to line up the because the command when this is the funny thing is command rate is it's not it went back in the DDR1 days, it was a command rate, but in the DDR3, actually even DDR2, with all the later DDRs, this isn't so much a rate at which commands are being sent, it's how long is the command being held on the command address bus, right? And so at 1T, you're holding that command for one clock cycle. So if it's not perfectly aligned, it doesn't get read correctly. And then the memory stick gets very confused about what it's supposed to do. So, anyway, moving on to the next super chat. And theoretically, the memory controller is supposed to be able to figure that out on its own, but yeah, they usually don't. Anyway, up next we have a 10900K at 1.35 volts, 5.1 gigahertz, LLC4 on a Maximus 13 Extreme. Strange choice of motherboard. Yeah, it is a strange choice of motherboard. That's the Z590 like extreme board. VCCSA and IO both at 1.35, RAM at 1.5, and it's running 4000. Oh, and you're running 8. Oh. Yeah, honestly, this is working surprisingly well, because as far as I know, this is a daisy chain topology. But yeah, so 4000, 15, 16, 16, 30, 2. TWR is, wait. Oh, we don't have TWR pre-readout in here. But yeah, that's loose. TRFC 300, okay, fair enough. TRD L6 and 4. I mean, TRD's 6 and 4, WTRL. Alright, we'll just look at these. These are loose. These could be lower. 31 and 25, that's unnecessarily high for 1.5 volts at 4000. So I would go with like 28, 22, well, even less than that. Like these could definitely go a bit lower than they are right now if you want to like, adjust something. RTP at 8, that, I mean, you could try 6, but it's not going to make massive performance differences. Cast write latency at 14, that makes sense. TREFI at 40,000, that's a bit of a strange TREFI value. Same, and then we have 7477. I think for dual rank Intel setups that you can actually do like 7466. I think. It's been a while since I've messed with this. And then also like I'm pretty sure these don't need to be 9s. But yeah, it's been a long time since I last messed with 10th gen and like dual rank memory with it. Oh yeah, I don't see anything like egregiously terrible here. So, I mean, actually, you might want to try tighten up your RTLs and IOLs because that can shave off some latency, though. I am not sure how to do that on Asus boards. I think I have a video for like how to do that on Gigabyte boards with 10th gen. But for Asus, off the top of my head, I don't know. I think you lower both your your RTLs and your IOLs at the same time by the same value. So like 57, 59, 13, 14, you would go to like, oh wait, you're on like 4 memory sticks, so you actually want to adjust all of them. Yeah, I'm not sure how to deal with this setup. For the RTLs and IOLs, but that is like one thing that you might want to look into for getting a bit lower latency with this. And in terms of voltages, I don't see anything wrong with this. Honestly, 1.35 at like, especially LLC4 on an Asus board, that is like very low voltage. That's a good 10900K. Or you're just not stress testing it very hard, one of the two. Anyway, let's take a look at the next super chat. I'm bad at copy pasting. Okay, we've got it. And we've got another 5800X3D. I swear, it's like every single, like, how many, there's too many 5800X3Ds. And this time we have a Hynix? Oh yeah, this is Hynix. But what kind of Hynix? Because this is like 4000 CL18G skill, so yeah, this is definitely some kind of Hynix. Might be AJR, might be CJR. If you had a picture of the label on the memory sticks with G.Skill, that's actually really easy to tell. At least on newer kits, it's really easy to tell what like die there is if you just have a picture of the label on the memory stick, not the label on the packaging, the label on the memory stick. Yeah, the packaging labels don't usually have very much useful information on them. Anyway, so a Strix X570i, and we're running 3666. Yeah, Ryzen doesn't like Hynix memory sticks, in my experience, like, at all. It's honestly kind of weird, like, how much Ryzen doesn't like Hynix memory sticks, like DDR4 Ryzen. DDR5, it's completely different, but DDR4 hates Hynix for some reason. But yeah, so 3666, and then 16, 19, 19, 20, 23. So yeah, that's pretty typical Hynix things right there. TRC at 23, so I mean TRC at 43, so that's actually a good TRC. Like, that's better than what you would get from like Micron memory sticks. Or anything 16 gigabit density Samsung. Man, I really wish I had some more 16 gigabit Hynix sticks to like mess around with, because I have some and they're terrible. And this looks like it would be good, but mine are like 3200 CL18 or 16 bin. So that is like, I think it's JJR or something. Whereas like G.Skill had like a bunch of high-speed bins of 16 gigabit Hynix sticks, and I didn't ever get a chance to play with any of those. I think Team Group also had some. And yeah, and I just never got a chance to play with any of those. Probably because I never like bothered to ask for samples, because it's just I hate that whole process of like sending an email where it's like, "Hey, I'd like to test these memory kits. I'll make a video about it." Mostly the "I'll make a video about it" part. That's the part that's like upsetting to me. Anyway, so yeah, 4416. So yeah, good TRDs in TFAW, WTRS 48, TWR 12. So yeah, like this is kind of the funny thing is like BDI's one like advantage over basically everything else is just the primary timings, because yeah, these compared to BDI, these are terrible. But the secondaries, these are actually quite like these are good secondaries, and TRFC is not completely horrendous at 469. Nice. SCL's at 4.4, so good. I wonder if 2.2 might not work. And then TCWL 14, which, yep, that makes sense. RTP 6, yeah, that's as low as you can really set RTP. I think the register limit is like 5, so yeah, I mean, you could try that. I don't think it'll... Actually, it might work, but it's not really going to make much of a difference at this point. TRDWR10, TWRD1, SDDD, we've got 5.4 and 7.6. Oh, I'm right, because you've got, yeah, so you probably want to try tighten these to 4, to the SD timing to 4 and 6. Yeah, because this is probably costing you some memory bandwidth, and voltage, we're at 1.4 volts. You know, well, it is Hynix, so I don't think like bumping this, like if you bump this to 1.5, my guess for what'll happen is you might be able to run CL14 and all of the other timings will be exactly the same. Maybe the WTRs will get slightly lower. And maybe SCLs might get better. But yeah, like like your TRCD unfortunately is like on most memory kits, TRCD does not scale with voltage. And this is true even like back into the DDR3 days. DDR4, like Samsung 8 gigabit BDI is like a massive anomaly with how the TRCD timing on it like scales with voltage so much. Like literally it just like normal memory sticks don't do that. And then there's Samsung 8 gigabit BDI for DDR4 where it's just like, yep, you set the like you keep raising voltage and TRCD keeps getting lower. At least if you have good BDI. Like there's also bad BDI which behaves like everything else does basically. Anyway, so yeah, this is like I don't really have any suggestions for this because this is just kind of good as far as I know about 16 gigabit Hynix memory setups. So yeah, moving on to the next submission. I think we're gonna have a fast one next. Not in terms of, like, I'll get through it fast, but, like, in terms of the settings. We have a 7950X3D on an X670E Gene, running DDR5 8000 CL32. So, yep, that is a lot of memory voltage. That is a lot of VDDQ voltage. I am surprised that that works. Then again, like, the Gene is very, very different from most of the boards I've used. Or, like, yeah, like, that's, like, the biggest difference in my experience with, like, Gigabyte versus Asus versus ASRock versus MSI is, like, the VDDQ and VDDIO voltage behavior. Is that, like, Gigabyte likes really low VDDQ, relatively speaking, and like, Asus especially likes really high VDDQ a lot of the time. ASRock as well. Yeah, ASRock also tends to like really high VDDQ, and then MSI, I don't really know for MSI because the one MSI board I have is just kind of terrible, so it's, you can't really run it at memory speeds where that, like, big VDDQ behavior difference starts becoming very noticeable. But yeah, anyway, man, I'm just gonna make this smaller for a bit. So we got 8,000, 32, 45, 45, 35, 40, 75. So yeah, primaries are very good. TRDs 4416. I recently found out that apparently with Ryzen 7000, if you're in 2-to-1 mode, this just gets auto-corrected to like 8832, or at least it doesn't perform any better than 8832, which, cool. I guess that's similar to how you can set WR SCL to 1. That doesn't, like, make sense. That shouldn't work, but yet it does. It like won't cause crashes. It won't. It's not like it even harms performance or anything. So it's like, my theory as to why that works is because the Ryzen memory controller literally just can't write enough. Like, there's not enough write bandwidth to actually hit this. Yeah. So that's like a thing. That's like one of the sort of funny things with memory timings is, like, for certain, a lot of the time with the memory controller will just, like, if you do something like set something impossibly low, right? A lot of people would assume, oh, it's going to crash. And what actually happens is, like, nah, the memory controller just doesn't use that timing because it literally cannot, like, do that, right? So yeah, anyway, there's no, like, downsides to running 4416. It's just, like, as far as I know, it functionally is the same thing as 8832. WTR is at 216, so that's very tight. The WTRS. The WTRL is actually, like, yeah, that's what I'd expect. TWR 48, TRFC 460. Man, that is, yeah, that's as, I'm pretty sure that's as low as it can go for these kinds of speeds. And then RTP at 5, I think that might be on the register limit. And then TRD WR12 and WRD2. Man, that is very tight. And TREFI completely maxed out because, of course. And VDDIO at 1.4. SOC at 1.1. Yeah, because when you're at, like, when you're in 2-to-1 mode, your UCLK is very low, right? Like, you're at just 2 gigahertz UCLK, so you don't need a ton of SOC voltage. So, yeah, and then CLDO VDDP at 1.1. Yeah, cool setup. Like, this is very fast. That is 10 hours of Karhu. Is there any other stress tests? I mean, there is more. RTP5 increases Karhu test speed, but upsets IDA read bandwidth. I would not worry about IDA read bandwidth. Yeah, like, I would just straight up ignore IDA's read bandwidth. Because IDA's tests are, like, so freaking synthetic that, like, I don't even know why it would be hitting the RTP timing. Also, IDA for Ryzen, especially on Ryzen 7000, hits the L3 cache a lot because it is physically impossible for a Ryzen 7000 CPU to have this much read bandwidth because the FCLK literally cannot transfer that much data. So, like, I think, like, 20% of your read bandwidth on a Ryzen 7000 when running IDA 64 is actually L3 cache. or like something like that. I think it's probably not like 20%, but it's like it's not accurate as a test at all. And so I would like basically I just like I just don't use IDA on Ryzen 7000 because it's just like it reads trash. There's Clam Bench if you want something that's a bit more like accurate. It's still very synthetic, but at least it doesn't spit out physically impossible numbers as much as IDA does. Actually, IDA will spit out some very physically impossible numbers on even Intel systems if you just dial in the settings hard enough. And I'm not even talking about the BCLK bug. Like if you run, I think, like very low memory speeds on Intel CPUs, it ends up giving you impossible amounts of read bandwidth. Or like, yeah, low memory speeds with tight timings breaks IDA. It just starts like mixing a bunch of L3 read bandwidth into the results. So IDA's a terrible benchmark, and I would honestly just I would respect Karhu's test speed more than IDA, and then I would also like test with like Y-Cruncher. I would test with PyPrime, SuperPy, 3D Mark 11 physics test, 3D Mark Time Spy, like basically anything but IDA, and Geekbench 3. Actually, Geekbench 3 might still be better than IDA for this kind of thing, but it's also not like it's pretty synthetic as well, but I don't think it's quite as bad as IDA is in terms of spitting out results that just don't make any sense. Anyway, so here we have an RTP at 12 setup. But yeah, like I mean, I'd probably just run 5 if it doesn't cause any stability issues. Anyway, cool setup. Man, I wish I had a Gene. So next super chat, and what is this? You come in with a 50 euro super chat and your screenshot looks like this. We don't even know what CPU it is. I mean, I can guess it's probably a 5800X3D. 5950X. Screenshot is from Linux. Oh, that explains it. Don't have them timings mem tweak it. Yeah, Linux does not have good overclocking support, like, at all. Probably because there's, like, no benchmarks for Linux. Like, not, like, overclocker, like, benchmarks popular with overclockers, I should say. 1.4 volts on the memory. In this case, you could have probably just taken like a photo of your BIOS with like your phone, and I would have probably preferred that. But anyway, oh, we got like BDI running. Wait, how much memory is this? 24-hour Y-Cruncher, Blender stable, 24. Linpack and Blender stable, but during gaming they get up to 60C with a fan, so I can't push them more. Yeah, but how much RAM is this? Because, like, is this dual rank or single rank or what? I'm going to assume it's dual rank. We got 16, 8, 15, 15. Yeah, it's 1.4 volts, so that makes sense. Low voltage. TRAS 24. So TRC could be 39 instead of, like, because you're, like, 15, 24, this should be 39, not 40. Not that it's going to make a huge difference, I'm just saying, like, it's not much, like, yeah. Anyway, TRDs, we've got 4416, so that's good. WTRS 410, so yeah, that's good. TWR 12, cool. TRFC 300, cool. SCL's at 33, that's good. TCWL 14, RTP at 8. Yeah, that makes sense. TRDWR 10, TWRRD at 7. I'm pretty sure that could be lower. I'm not sure how much of a performance impact that has, but that is really, really loose. And then so dual rank timings, we have 4466. So that looks good. So either this is a single rank setup and those are the auto timings from the motherboard, or this is dual rank and you actually tighten those up. But yeah, this looks, and this is at 3800 with, I'm assuming, synchronized FCLK. So like this is pretty generic Ryzen timings. Like, they're good. There's not really any changes I would make to this. At least not any changes that would really make much of a difference. Right? Anyway. Wait a minute. The chat just like jumped for me when I tried scrolling down. Okay, I haven't missed any super chats, I don't think. So let's just grab I guess I'll just grab the latest. It's 32 gigs, 16 by 2. Cool. Is Prime still memory bottlenecked in C++? Yes, it is. Oh. I mean, that makes sense, doesn't it? Like, wait, what is PyPrime even written in? Is it in Java? Did I see your tag on Twitter? No. Why would I see your tag on Twitter? Oh, and I forgot to make the instructions bigger. Oh, we have a 7500F. On an X670 Aorus Elite. And we got some bargain Hynix sticks, apparently. Because these are Hynix timings. This is not Samsung, and it's definitely not Micron. So 6200 and 2133 FCLK, 1.2 SoC. So this is a solid CPU. Yeah, because a lot of chips for 6200 will need more than like 1.2 SoC. And then we've got 32, 38, 38, 38, 32, 70. That makes sense. I mean, I would think TRC can probably go lower than that, but sometimes, like, some kits will just not do low TRAS. Actually, if this is 8i, what you could do is like raise TRAS and lower TRP, and that's generally better for performance. Like just swap. Well, I'm not sure if you'd be able to. Well, no, you're in MEM 1.4 on the VDD, so TRP could go as low as like 32 potentially. Anyway, TRRDs, we've got 4620. That's cool. WTRS at 6 and WTRL at 14. This could be 414 instead of 614. Not that I think it'll make a massive difference, but like it could be 414. TWR48, cool. TRFC 500, cool. SCL's at 44, nice. RTP12, TRDWR14, WRD2, cool. And this is a single rank setup, so we don't have to worry about the dual rank timings. Refresh interval at 65,000, so completely maxed out. Not sure which IC from Ranstix. SPD only says Hynix. Okay, so what you could do to figure out if it's 8i is you could try set the TRFC like way lower. Like I think for 6200 you might be able to set it like below 400 with 8i. Yeah, which this is really annoying to me is that if you're on Intel, Intel CPUs use TRFC2 and TRFC same bank. AMD CPUs use TRFC. And so MDI, 16 gigabit Hynix, does really low TRFC2 and really low TRFC same bank, but off like high TRFC, relatively speaking. ADI is the other way around, where it does low TRFC and high TRFC2 and TRFC same bank. And so my video, so there's like a video I made where I say that, oh, Hynix MDI does lower TRFC. It does on Intel. It doesn't on AMD. Horrible. Because the other thing is like some Intel boards will actually just like block out the TRFC timing, so you only have like your TRFC or actually, do we have an Intel screenshot that I still have like opened up? Nope, that's all Ryzen, man. Yep, these are all Ryzen. Oh no, yeah. So if you look at like Intel timing readouts, oh yeah, no, it says TRFC too. Oh no, memtweakit doesn't say TRFC2. Yeah, so memtweakit says like TRFC. Actually, that's TRFC2. And on AMD, that is TRFC. But on Intel, it's TRFC2. And it's just like, yeah. So what you could do is like, yeah, if it's A die, it'll do it'll do really low TRFC. Like I think below 400 at 6200. And other than that, it can also do low TRP. That's like the other thing that A die does that M die doesn't. So yeah, that's one way you could try to like manually check. I'm guessing Team Group relabeled the memory chips, right? Because that's what a lot of memory manufacturers do, is they just like relabel the memory chips, either with a sticker or like custom etchings. Well, I just checked my Twitter and I still don't see anything in my notifications. So yeah. TRP and TRFC has been quite hard to lower. So yeah, it's probably M die in that case. I mean, you could also try put it in 2-to-1 mode and see if you can boot like over like A die will boot like yeah, on a gigabyte board I would think A die will probably just boot 7600. If you just punch in loose enough timings. If it's M die, it's not going to do that. Anyway, I don't think... Yeah, I got all the super chats, so let's just grab another random submission in order. So not random at all. Sorry I posted with the link at the beginning. I don't care. As long as you don't post... As long as I don't look at the same thing twice, you can... Like, please, don't spam chat, but, like, if you were here early and you didn't get in, you know, you can certainly try to get in. Also, this link isn't working. Why? Okay, well, we'll just grab another one. And for 10900K, what are the safe VCCSA and I/O voltages? I would definitely not go over 1.45 on either of them. And ideally, you'd probably want to stay below 1.4. Also, I/O voltage, if you set it too high, is like you can set I/O voltage too high. That's like a real thing that you can do. SA, in my experience, generally that doesn't really run into that issue. Cool. So I'll just grab this link. And we have a 10900 KF. With too many pixels. Also, what is this? Oh, wait. This is some weird dual screen setup. And it's not stable. Oh boy. 4400 on a Z490 Unify, and it's not an X Unify, so this one has too many memory slots. That's probably why this isn't stable. Is this single rank? 4400. Yeah, this is single rank. Timeout issue. Voltage stability issue. This is a 4-DIM daisy chain trying to run 4400 on Intel. If it was a... And the voltages are... Also, that is very low system agent for 4400. And you're at 1617, and you're at what I would consider too low DRAM voltage. Yeah, 4400, 1617 at 1.52. That seems optimistic. So, no, I'm going to go with this just isn't stable. Also, voltage stability issue. Like, I've tried probing the power delivery on a few DDR4 boards, like for the memory rail. it's a flat line. I've never made a video about it because there's nothing to see. So the voltage stability, like if this is voltage stability, it's on like the level of the memory chip itself. At which point I would say maybe you should just raise the voltage. Then it wouldn't get too low sometimes. You know. Anyway, in terms of the timings, like, well, these would be good if they were stable. 4400, 16, 17, 17, 36. See, that TRAS is weirdly high. 6.4, like, that could be lower. 6.4, 400, 45,000 TREFI, cool. Evidently didn't tune right to pre-charge or right to power down enable at all. TCKE at 8, TFAW at 16, cool. RTP at 10, that, I wouldn't really bother trying to tighten that at 4400. And then the tertiaries are, I mean, your right to reads are literally, like, this is auto, I'm assuming. Like, I'm pretty sure that's auto. So actually these timings aren't even, like, you did TRFC, okay, you did the important ones, and then everything else is, like, not great. Wait, this is 2T, isn't it? Oh yeah, it is 2T. Well, at least the memory latency looks good. Oh, you could also, actually, you're probably running auto RTLs and IOLs. You might, like, you could probably bring that down. 16, 18, 18 is stable. Yeah, that makes sense. Because TRCD is voltage sensitive on B die. It's also temperature sensitive on B die, but, like, if setting this to 18 would be stable, then, like, okay, you don't need to raise SA, but your memory voltage is, like, too low for that TRCD. And actually, depending on the sticks, even raising the memory voltage, like, it might not fix the stability. Though if you can run 4400 at 1.25 SA, I would really want to try 45. Like, I'd be interested in trying, like, 4533 or 4600 even. Because it shouldn't, like my 10900K to, like, run 4600 at all needs, like, 1.5 SA or something. Actually, it's not like 1.5, it's like 1.4. Like, it needs a ton of system agent voltage. But this probably wouldn't, I think. So that could be worth, like, experimenting with, and you'd be running, like, 1719 probably for 4533 or 4600. That could be a bit faster. Anyway, let's grab another super chat. Which is a 7950X3D at 6600. Man, what a memory controller. At 1.28 SoC. I'm assuming that's just set to 1.3, right? And it's just, like, dipping, like, the measurement is just slightly off. 6600 CL28. Absolutely smashing the memory voltage. Almost 1.7 on the memory sticks. 28, 38, 38, 34, 32, 66, 8, 8, 32. Yeah, like, those primaries, that, yeah, that, like, for that yep, that makes sense for that voltage. The SCLs seem unnecessarily loose for 6600. Like, okay, at 6600, you might not be able to do the typical 4-4, but I would think, like, you know, like 5 or 6 should still be perfectly functional. Anyway, TRD's 832. I'm not really, like, too fussed. Like, I'd probably try TRDS at 4, but I'm not too, like, worried about that. That's, like, less important than the SCLs in my opinion. WTRS at 4, WTRL at 16, cool. TWR 48, cool. TRFC, yeah. So this is 8i. 400, like just under 400 TRFC, and then 65,000 in refresh interval. So this is really tight and really, like, for 1-to-1 mode, really high clock. Like, this is insane. Not doing the 2200 FCLK probably because the SoC voltage is just, like, when you're running high SoC voltage, you get running high FCLK sort of becomes impossible. And it becomes more of a problem the faster your memory is, because it puts even more load on the Infinity Fabric as your memory is faster. So, like, 2200 FCLK at, say, 1.3 SoC might work if you're at, like, 6000 on the memory. But if you're at, like, 6600 on the memory, it probably won't work anymore. But even then, like, this is faster than doing, like, a 6400 2133 setup. Because with Ryzen 7000, and it doesn't really make a ton of sense, but memory clock just massively outweighs Infinity Fabric for some reason. Like, and it's probably because the latency of the memory controller itself is still higher than the Infinity Fabric latency that you're, like, saving by running, like by, say, running like 2133 with 6400 instead of 6600 and 2166. So yeah, and this is on a Crosshair X670E Hero. Cool. Yeah, these are some good, like, this is one hell of a CPU, or like one hell of a memory controller. I mean, with the 1.7 daily comment, I've been toying with the idea of putting 7600 CL30 in my daily, and that requires 1.75. At least with the sticks I want to run. $2200 not bootable? I mean, at 1.3 SoC, I wouldn't expect it to be bootable. Not stable, 8,000, but $200 board. What, you got the board for $200, or you mean like the HDV can do 8,000 and this can't? I mean, it's a 4-dimmer, so I'm not surprised that it can't do 8,000. Okay, next super chat. We got a 7800X3D running DDR5 6400 at 1.28 SoC. So still better than basically all of the memory controllers I have on hand, because it runs. 2133 FCLK, and then 3037, 3360, 63, I mean 30, 63, 4, 8, 20, 4, 16. So all of, like, the first set of timings, and then TWR at register limit. So that's all good. TRFC at 550, that's weirdly high. Is this MDI? Wait, oh, right, 24 gigabit. Yeah, okay, of course, yeah, okay. That not weirdly high, that makes perfect sense for 24 gig DIMMs. 4.2 on the SCLs, that makes sense. RTP12, TRDWR16, WRD4, yep, that all makes sense as well. Dual rank timings aren't relevant because this is a single rank setup. 65,000 TREFI, good. And then for the memory voltages, 1.45, and we're on a Strix B650-A gaming Wi-Fi motherboard. So yeah, this all looks good. That CLDO VDDP is, like, high. Is that auto? Because I don't think you'd ever have to set it that high. It's on auto. Yeah, I would probably try to lower that. I would, like, yeah. I'm not sure. Like, the thing is, like, you know, I don't have any like official data on like, hey, if you set this voltage to this, it'll break the CPU. Unfortunately, the CPU manufacturers don't publish that kind of information. I'm not entirely sure why they don't publish that kind of information, because like I've heard one thing, like like a theory I think I maybe heard at some point was like, oh, it would be like a competitive advantage to know at like what voltage your competitor's manufacturing process like falls apart or something. But it's like, would it really? I guess the other side of it is like we don't want to get we don't want to get like sued by customers if we set the like safe voltage too high, I guess. But yeah, I don't know that I would set VDDP above 1.15 ever. It definitely shouldn't need to be that high. So like I'd probably try to lower that. To like I would probably honestly for like 6400 1-to-1 mode, I don't think like you could probably just set it to 1.1 and I would imagine it would just work. Because in 1-to-1 mode, CLDO VDDP, at least in my experience, isn't super important. It's like 2-to-1 mode where it really starts to matter if you're trying to push high speeds. Anyway, so next super chat, we've got another 7950X3D. With M die, but that doesn't tell us what density, and too many pixels. Get a smaller monitor. Though it's a whoa, wait, this is one of those crazy ultra wides, isn't it? Like ultra wide. Oh wait, no, this looks like a pretty normal. No, this is probably the same as what I use actually. Wait, let me just put this on my actually that's a bad idea. I should do it this way. Wait, this is like a 4K ultra wide, isn't it? Oh wait, no, this is actually just regular. Oh yeah, this is the same size as I use. Not used to it being in a screenshot though. It makes it look bigger, especially since I'm dragging it over to a 1080p monitor for the stream. So let's take a look at these settings. Oh, we've got HCI mem test. I don't see many people using that these days, mostly because it's a massive pain to like get an official copy of the software. But anyway, so we've got a X670E carbon Wi-Fi running 6000. Oh, this is just my lazy timings, isn't it? Yes, it is. Yeah, the FCLK 2033 thing, that doesn't work on new AGSAs. If you're on a up-to-date BIOS, you should be running the FCLK either at 2000 or as high as possible. Not 2033. Not that it makes a huge difference, but like it is technically like 2000 is faster, 2100 and up is faster, 2033 is slower than 2000 on newer AGSAs. Because when I made the video, at the time that I made the video, 2033 was faster due to a bug in the AGSA. Anyway, so 6000, 30, 36, 36, 36, 30, 68. That should be 66 if your TRAS is at 30. TRDSNL is at 8.8, but TFall is at 20. I mean, that doesn't really hurt anything, but that is an interesting choice of TRDs for a TFall of 20 at 6000. Like, I would have thought 4.8 would probably work. Right, we checked TFall WTRS 616. That's fine. Could be like you could run 416 or 414 probably. TWR 48, that's minimized. TRFC 480, that's right, MDI. So yeah, that makes sense. TREFI 65,000, that makes sense. This is single rank, so we don't need to worry about the dual rank timings. RTP at 12, TRDWR at 16, and WRD at 2, and SCL's at 4. So yeah, there's nothing really like timing-wise super wrong with this. I would just like set FCLK to 2000 or like above 2100. If you don't want to have to like re-stress test everything, I would just lower it to 2000 in this case. So yeah. Any tips to tighten timings on a Ryzen 5500U laptop? Is the methodology much different from a desktop? I would go, like, I've never tuned a laptop, but I would do the same thing. And you're on a Ryzen, so you won't have access to refresh intervals, so that's not really a concern. Yeah, I don't know what to do about a laptop. Like, I literally don't, like, I haven't used a laptop in, like, ages. And even when I did, I never tried to, well, no, I did try to overclock one, like, back in high school. But yeah, not anything modern. And also, it was not good when the last time I tried it. And that was an AMD laptop. Well, yeah, it was an AMD laptop, so you could at least like use AMD Overdrive and to kind of try achieve something, and it was super buggy and not great. Anyway, so we have a Z790 Apex Encore with a 14900 KF running 8400 and 3648 4890 with 2T command rate, 16 gig DIMMs. Why is your TRFC per bank so loose? Like I understand the people where they're like TRFC2 and TRFC per bank is the same value, but when it's like this, TRFC per bank can typically go way lower than TRFC2, and it does slightly boost performance. So it's like, why did you set it 30 cycles lower? Because that is like well into the territory of you could have just left it the same. But anyway, so like, yeah, if like you could lower that more, probably. I don't know that I would necessarily bother doing that at 8400 on an Intel system. Then again, I would basically not bother trying to tune memory on an Intel system at all. So, you know, my opinion on what is worth doing with Intel CPUs is probably not valid. But anyway, TRDs look good. 410, WTRs on the looser end of things. But yeah, I've unfortunately I've not managed to get even 8000 to work correctly on Intel CPUs. Then again, I usually try to run my stress test for longer than an hour. Which might have something to do with the whole, like, I can't get 8000 to stop crashing. But yeah, so the thing is, like, earlier in the stream, we did see a screenshot where somebody had, like, WRD SG at, like, 64 and DG at, like, 48. But again, and I think they were also at, like, 84. They were at, like, 8533 or something, but I don't know. I don't work at these kinds of memory speeds because, I mean, I just, yeah, with Intel CPUs, so I just can't really comment on that. And then RTP at 16, that makes sense, I think, for this kind of speed. TFall 16, okay, that makes sense with the TRRDs. TCWL 34 with a TCL of 36, yep, that makes sense. TREFI at 150,000, so I'm assuming you're keeping an eye on your memory temperatures. TCKE at 8, TRD. The funny thing is that TREFI 150,000, so if you're at hypothetically, if you're at DDR5 4000 and your refresh interval is set to 60,000, that is the same thing as if you're at DDR5 8000 and your refresh interval is set to 120,000. Because your refresh interval, like, all of your other timings get tighter as you go up in frequency. Refresh interval works in reverse, where that's the one timing that gets looser as you go up in frequency. So like 60,000 at 6,000 is the same thing as 80,000 at 8,000. So yeah, so this is actually like not as much of a, like, 150,000 refresh interval at DDR5 6000 is actually like more difficult from a like stability perspective than at 8400. And anyway, that's not really that relevant. You still need to keep an eye on the temperatures when you're running like a refresh interval that high and also frequencies that high. TRDSG at 16, 8, yep, that makes sense. 22 on the read to write timings, and then 16, 8 on the write to write timings. Cool. I wish I had more useful things to say about this, but yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I have given up on Intel tuning, so that's kind of that. So I guess we'll grab another random submission. Oh, we're already at 2 hours. Man, that went by quick. I don't feel like stopping. Like, we might go for another hour, I think. Yeah, I don't see a reason to stop. It's not like I have anything better to do. So, next we have a 5700X on a B550A Pro MSI motherboard. Running 3733 on... Man, what is this? 600. What... Man, what is this? There is no manufacturer that I'm aware of that has their, like, model numbers be just, like, a string of timings and then a speed. It's dual... Apparently this is dual rank of some kind. It looks very Micron to me, because the TRFC is bad. Yeah, I'm gonna go with this is some kind of Micron. What? This is CDI? No, it isn't. CDI could just lower TRFC than that. At least, as far as I know, it does. I'm pretty sure it does lower TRFC than that. Also, if this is CDI, how is it doing 3733 with TRCD21? That's like, yeah, in my experience, CDI does okay TRFC, horrible TRCD, and doesn't clock very high. So this really, also this is like dual, like there's no way this is CDI. It's in dual rank. Like if this was CDI, this would not work at all. This has to be Micron. This looks super Micron. I mean, I guess one way you could check if it's CDI or Micron is you could set the memory voltage to like 1.45, and then if it completely face plants, I guess it is CDI. But if it doesn't completely face plant, it's Micron. I mean, actually, Micron does have a few memory chips that also face plant, but none of them, as far as I know, none of them would actually work at these kinds of settings, so... Like, I might be misremembering, but I am 99% certain that my CDI video, I was running like sub 500 TRFC. Yeah, I was running 466 at 3600. But my TRCD was like way worse, and my memory, I had to run like low memory voltage, awful TRCD, and like that was the one good thing about CDI was like it did good TRRDs, it did good TRFC, it good, you know, like your this TRC for this is way like. Let me reopen that tab. Like, oh wait, no, the TRC actually does make sense for CDI, huh? It also makes sense for Micron. So I guess it might be CDI? I guess there might be like a lot of chip-to-chip variants then? But this is really good for CDI. Like, if this is CDI, then like, this is way too good for CDI. Typhoon shows it as C-die. Oh, then yeah, it's probably Micron. Yeah, because Typhoon Burner is not super... Wait, like, does it say it's Micron or just C-die? I mean, does it say it's Samsung specifically? Because I guess it could also be D-die. Because if it, like, it could be... Yeah, I guess Samsung D-die wouldn't necessarily... Like, this would be within the realm of possibility for Samsung D-die, I think. But yeah, like, the actual timings here, like, this looks good. I am just confused as to what it is. I can't see this being C-die, though. That TRCD, way too tight. I could see it being Micron. It could maybe be Hynix. No, Hynix, I think, would do lower TRFC. D-die doesn't do low TRFC. Also, like, the other thing is, wait, it says dual rank. Yeah, the other thing is Samsung C-die is, like, notorious for, like, not working with itself. As in, if you have single rank C-die, that'll work fine. And then if you go to dual rank, it, like, doesn't work at the same speeds. Like, it interferes with itself at high memory speeds. At least I've heard that from some people. I've not actually owned enough C-die sticks to test that myself, but it wouldn't surprise me. So I would think, yeah, this I would think like D-die Samsung or Micron. Because that would explain the TRFC and also how it's at 3733 and TRCD 21. Oh. Eight gigabit. Yeah, the thing is the part number is a total guess. Because that's not programmed into the SPD on most memory sticks. I'm going to go with this as D-die. That would explain how it's functioning. To me, at least. Like, I'm going to go with this part number readout, and the the density is going to be correct. The die revision, wrong, and part number is wrong. I'm going to go with this as D-die, because those settings don't make sense for C-die. In my experience, that doesn't make sense for C-die. You could also, again, just try to raise the memory voltage, and if it just completely destabilizes it, then it's C-die. In which case, man, like, the range of things that C-die can do is terrible, but concerning. Yeah, because D-die is actually kind of okay. And like, does kind of scale with voltage. C-die, on the other hand, like, it just face plants if you raise the memory voltage. Like, it goes from, like, if it's barely stable and you raise the voltage, it is now completely unstable. So if you raise the voltage and it, like, stops posting, then it's probably C-die. Which leads to really funny things, like some XMP C-die kits aren't stable at stock voltage because the XMP is 1.35, and that is enough voltage to destabilize some C-die kits. So you need to, like, lower, like, so to stabilize those kits, you actually just need to lower the memory voltage to, like, 1.32, and then they work. But they don't work necessarily at 1.35. Because, yeah, C-die is just terrible. Anyway, next submission, we have another Ryzen system. HCI, TestMem5, IDA, Y-Cruncher, everything. B550i Aorus Pro AX, and I'm guessing this is just running, 5000. Micron eDie, 8 gigabit. Damn. This is a wild setup. You know, this might actually make sense from a performance perspective for Micron. Oh, this is a 4650G. I wonder, because the thing is with the APUs, you can usually do like 2200 FCLK pretty easy. All right, and that would, like 2200 FCLK, I think is probably better than, than this. Yeah, 4650G, you should be able to do 2200 FCLK. But if the goal here wasn't, you know, optimal performance, I think Y-Cruncher, the FCLK is still weirdly low. Like, it's been a while since I ran my 4750G, but that FCLK seems weirdly low. But in terms of the actual memory settings, this is pretty cool, right? 5000, CL20, TRCD26, TRP16, TRAS54, TRC78. So yeah, these are all minimized. TRD's at 55, TFAL22. I guess, yeah, at this kind of frequency, I guess that makes sense. WTR's at 37, TWR18. I guess that makes sense. TRFC 750. Yep, that's Micron TRFC right there. SCL's at 66. I guess for 5000 that might be necessary. RTP at 9 and TRDWR 8 and 3 and WRD 3. And then the dual rank timings aren't relevant because this is obviously a single rank setup. You're not running this kind of frequency on dual rank, as far as I know. SoC at 1.33 and 1.5 volts on the memory. Yeah, this is like cool settings on the memory, but I'm pretty sure a 4400 or a 4533 setup would actually be like more better in like general use. Y-Cruncher specifically though probably favors the DDR5 5000 setup. I mean DDR4 5000 setup. But I do think your FCLK should be able to go higher. I do not know why it's at 1700, unless that's like a reading error. Like you should be able to, like the APUs do very high FCLK. So yeah, that doesn't make a ton of sense. But the memory settings, those are cool. Oh, and this is even gear down mode. And even gear down mode is disabled. Oh, and you have like the command address set up at 63, which, yeah, I guess the alignment might change. It should change with the board, and the frequency as well will affect it. So, yeah, that's cool to see. 1-to-1 doesn't work with the 4650? What? I have to go do... Yeah, no, that's fine. That makes sense. But, like, I don't get why this wouldn't run higher FCLKs. Like, you can just... Did you, like, not disable the power states? Oh, your Infinity Fabric Max is at 2100. Well, why are you running it at 2100 for 5000? Also, there's, like, a voltage that you can raise to run higher FCLK. I had my 4750G at, like... I think I did like 2400 FCLK, but it needed like 1.35 or 1.45 SoC. Like it needed stupid SoC voltage and then it would do 2400. But yeah, anyway, for the FCLK, you probably like definitely would there's settings in the BIOS to disable the FCLK power states, and that can help with stability a bit. Downclocks no matter. Oh, well, it is a gigabyte board, so these are a bit weird about like configuring some of the settings, but if you dig through the like I'm pretty sure if you dig through the AMD overclocking section, there's like DFC states or something. And there's like there should also be like a SoC overclocking mode, and if you like turn that on, or IO-die overclocking mode, something like that. Like there's a way to like force the Infinity Fabric to stick to max frequency. Might just be kind of a chore to set that up because Gigabyte. And not even necessarily newer BIOS. Try older BIOS potentially. Like I found that especially the newest AGSAs with Ryzen 5000 are so bad for memory overclocking. Like I literally have on my B550 Vision, I like wrote on one of the heat sinks which BIOS version does highest memory clocks because every BIOS version after it is worse. So it's like, you know, and when testing certain things, it's like the BIOS version that is optimal for high memory clocks doesn't even have support for the 5700X3D. Like it's ancient at this point. And then everything after that, like that BIOS will go up to like 4800 plus easy. And then everything after it, you're struggling to do 4600. What the DFC states doesn't work. I didn't have issues with like the Infinity Fabric downclocking on Ryzen 5000. Is it? No, like you don't even need a lot of SoC voltage. We're talking AM4. AM5 is the SoC voltage issues. UCLK Div 1 mode? Oh, no, yeah, I know that's apparently broken where you can't, like, desync with 1-to-1. It, like, forces 2-to-1 as soon as you try to desync. No, it wasn't specific to the 5800X3D. It was basically Ryzen 7000 CPUs. If you set the SoC voltage above 1.3 volts, after a random amount of time, the IO die explodes, basically, and kills the CCDs in the process. Like, I'm actually still not sure what like, AMD never went into details of the full failure mechanism. It's seemingly more common on the X3D chips, but that could also just be because the X3D chips are way more popular. My other theory is that maybe the X3D chips, because like the thing is, the IO die gets both vCore and SoC voltage fed into it. I think it looks like it does based on like where it sits on the substrate and where like the pins are. So it probably gets both vCore and SoC. And the X3D chips run way less vCore. So like it's possible that there's like a reverse biasing issue where there's like some where vCore and SoC voltage are present in the same circuitry, and if the SoC voltage is significantly higher than vCore, then it like breaks the CPU. But how quickly that happens is kind of random. So it's really common on, like, it's more common on X3Ds than it is on the non-X3D chips, but it happens on both. Like, there was a 7900X that died in a Gigabyte board with basically the same symptoms as all of the Asus CPUs. Do we react to DDR3 timings? Any memory timings. Just like if you send DDR2 in, I'm not going to know what to say about it. And DDR1, same thing, because like I don't even know what a DDR1 motherboard is. Anyway, let's grab another submission. Well, I don't even know what this is yet. The screenshot is on some massive monitor again. This is 4K, isn't it? Oh boy. Yeah, gotta be. Oh, we have a 7900, not a CPU you see very... This is actually, I think, the first time we've seen a 7900 on the show, like, across all of the episodes. I mean, there are only 3 of them, so that's not really that many submissions, but yeah. So yeah, a 7900 running 6400 at 1.2 SoC. So this is a really good memory controller. I do wonder if this would boot 6600. This would probably boot 6600. It might not be stable at 6600, but I imagine it would boot. Anyway, yeah, so 6400, 1.2 SoC, and 2133 on the FCLK. Gear down mode disabled. That's interesting to see on a Ryzen 7000. I've not really bothered to test for that very much. But yeah, also like, because not all motherboards will necessarily let you turn it off, because the settings like weird about, like the boards are weird about that setting. Anyway, so memory times, we got 30, 39, 39, 39. So this is probably kind of low on the memory voltage. No, it's not. It's a 1.44. So that's kind of weird to see the primary timings. Like, the cast latency, okay. That is, yeah, this 30 at 6400, that's kind of low. But 39 on the TRCDs? I mean, like, to be fair, some memory sticks really do suck at TRCD, but... yeah, and then we have TRAS. Right, this is an Asus motherboard, so it doesn't enforce the TRAS limit. I'm not sure if that, like, I'm assuming that just gets auto-corrected to 30. Actually, with the TRC at 63, I'm not sure that actually does anything. Yeah, I guess I should check that, like, because I do have some, like, take one of my Asus motherboards and see if I can set the TRAS to, like, what, like, I don't know if they even have a limit. I think it bottoms out at, like, 1. Yeah, I think Asus will let you punch in a TRAS value of even, like, 1, and I'm pretty sure that'll still post because it isn't real. But I haven't bothered to check, so, yeah, I guess I'll look into that. Also, it's worth noting that TRP is more important for performance than TRAS, and so on memory kits where you need to balance TRP and TRAS against each other, always bias towards TRP. Honestly, I'm still confused as to why the TRAS timing even exists. Like memory sticks could be fully functional if the TRAS timing literally got removed. Would not affect anything. Oh wait, no, it would affect like speculative row open, which I think like I don't think AMD did that until Ryzen 7000. Anyway, TRC at 63, which yeah, that makes sense. And then TRD's at 6,624. Does 4,620 not work? Not that it's gonna be like much faster, but like, yeah, that's a weird combination. 416, cool. TWR48, that's... As far as I know, Asus doesn't enforce a register limit for TWR either. Anyway, TRFC 512, which is weirdly high for what I'm assuming. Oh, this is a 6200 CL36 Corsair kit, so this is probably MDI. Oh, so TRP actually won't go any lower than 39 anyway. So yeah, I guess you don't have to worry about that. Oh wait, no, it could probably do 38. But anyway, SCLs we got 6.4. I'd be surprised if 4.4 didn't work, or at least like 5.4. RTP12, cool. TRDWR16, fine. TWRD2, fine. And this is a single rank setup, so the dual rank timings don't matter. Refresh interval completely maxed out. Yep, not much more to say about this. I guess I should try out the TRAS thing with the Asus boards. But I don't think, like, because on Gigabyte boards, you literally can't set it below 30. And I think anything below 30 actually just gets it either gets auto-corrected to 30 or, like, ignored or something, because, I don't know why else Gigabyte would have that, like, 30 limit. And I think ASRock also, wait, no, ASRock doesn't, I think MSI does, I am not sure. It's, like, random from board to board. Oh, we got some more super chats in, so let's do those first. Oh, another 5800X3D. And it's running... What is this? Ooh, Hynix. On a B550i Aorus Pro X. So ITX board. So yeah, 16 gigabit Hynix again. 18, 22, 22, 22, 62. Yeah, that seems to line up with the past submissions. 4416, 412 WTRs. Yeah, that makes sense. The TRFC is like pretty decent. Like, you know, like for a high density DDR4 chip, like that's not the worst TRFC ever. SCL's at 4.4, good. RTP at 8, cool. TCWL 18, that could probably go lower. And the dual rank timings are tightened. There's not really much for me to comment on here, is there? I mean, that SoC voltage is really low. So that's neat. And, like, you can run that at very low SoC voltage. Like, it's 3800 synchronized FCLK. 1.4 on the memory. Yeah, there's really nothing, like, this is just a nice dual rank Hynix low voltage setup. Mostly because, like, well, like, the thing with the low voltage is, like, I usually don't bother tuning the SoC voltage. I just set it to 1.15. Which is usually, like, usually that works for most CPUs. The motherboard, basically, I do the same thing the motherboard vendors do with my SoC voltage for Ryzen 5000, where it's like, set it to 1.15. And it'll probably work. Though I think some boards actually defaulted to 1.2, which can actually cause issues with some CPUs sometimes. I think with like the PCIe or something. Anyway, yeah, so there's not really much to comment on here, because like this is just pretty generic 16 gigabyte Hynix things. So I guess next submission. And another 7800X3D. I am bad at copy pasting. I am really bad at copy pasting. So 7800X3D, running on a B650 Edge Wi-Fi ATX board, not the ITX. 6200 CL28, so I'm assuming pretty high memory voltage. Oh, it's just 1.45. So that's not that high at all. Yeah, and 28, 37, 37, 30, 30, 60, 4, 8, 20, 4, 16. So pretty typical Hynix 8i things. 48 TWR, TRFC at 420. Yep, very, very typical Hynix 16 gigabit 8i things right there. 4.2 on the SCLs, RTP at 12. That could probably go a bit lower. TRDWR at 16, TWRD at 2. Yep, that like makes sense. Refresh interval at 65,000, so completely maxed out. And then 3100. Oh, FCLK at 2200 with 1.2 SoC. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so just a very solid 6200 CL28 setup. I mean, that's pipe prime. That's not a stress test. I was kind of hoping to see a stress test here, and that's 7.85. Unfortunately, I don't remember, like, pipe prime times for a 7800X3D off the top of my head. But yeah, this is just, like, this looks good. Yeah. So next submission, I guess. I hope you don't mind some X99. I do not. Especially if it's with Samsung 4 gigabit eDie. Got a X99 Pro USB 3.1. What is this? Is this an Asus board or an ASRock board? Asus. Wait. Yeah, I'm going to go with Asus because it says Asus All Series, which I don't know what that is, but I'm assuming this is an Asus board. 5820K at 4 gigahertz? What? Why? Like, even Potato Haswell-E's do like 4.4. Unless you ran out of cooling. Which is admittedly a real, like, these things chug power. So, you know, that's not an unlikely possibility, but, like, they're also not that hard to cool. Like, you should, like, a big air cooler can deal with 4.4, as long as the CPU isn't too terrible. Anyway, let's take a look at these memory settings. 3200, which is impressive for a 5820K. Because, yeah, the Haswell-E memory controller, bad. Very bad. Right up there with, actually probably the worst memory controller as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, so that's impressive that like 3200 is working like at all, but then this is really tame settings for eDie. Yeah, Samsung 4 gigabit eDie, I would have, I was hoping for something like CL12 or 14. And you're over here with like freaking XMP settings. What voltage is this at? Is this are you at least like at 1.35 volts or something? Because if you're above 1.35 volts, then these primaries are just like, why are they so loose? Because yeah, Samsung 4 gigabit eDie like scale, well, the TRCD doesn't really scale, but TCL scales a lot with voltage. So like you could totally, like I think at like 1.5 or something, you could totally be doing CL12 at 3200. And then TRCD, I really think you should be able to do TRCD 16 at 3200. Then again, I'm not sure, like, the Haswell-E memory controller might make that more difficult. It's actually really funny to me is, like, I think I was testing eDie 4 gigabit with an APU, and all of the sticks were clocking, like, crazy high and doing really low TRCD, and then I took those same sticks and tried them on an Intel CPU, and it's like, whoa, this is so much worse. Yeah, I think that yeah, so that's like a funny thing where like, and it's not always, but like, yeah, sometimes like different memory controllers will give you very different results with certain memory kits. It's kind of like how if you take Hynix, which runs great on like Hynix DDR4, right? Say 8 gigabit DJR, which runs great on like a bunch of Intel CPUs, and you put it in a Ryzen's AM4 in an AM4 motherboard, and it's terrible. And it's just like, why? Anyway, yeah, so the primaries aren't anything particularly impressive for a Samsung 4 gigabit eDie setup, though it is at least 1T command rate, so that's something. TWR12, TRFC241. Yep, that's pretty typical 4 gigabit stuff. Actually, you could probably run the TRFC lower, I think. TRD44, WTR48. Yeah. Funnily enough, 8 gigabit eDie actually does better WTRs than 4 gigabit. Wait, 8 gigabit BDI does better WTRs than 4 gigabit eDie. There, I don't remember what I said. Anyway, RTP6, cool. TFAL16, cool. TCKE4, yep, cool. TCWL13. I mean, yeah, with that TCL being 16, I guess that makes sense. And then TCCD4, TCCDL6. I'm pretty sure these could... Oh, no, that's the equivalent of read to read and write to write, so that makes sense. Wait, there's a separate write register. Man, it's been so long since... Well, actually, back when X99 was relevant, I was bad at RAM. I mean, I'm still bad at Intel RAM, but, like, I was worse. Anyway, read to write, same rank. We've got... Wait, this is single rank. Oh, right, read to write, same rank. Yeah, that makes sense that needs a separate timing. Because these are, like, back-to-back for write and back-to-back for read. The CCD stands for cast to cast delay. Yeah, and so you have like cast-to-cast delay for both like write, read. And then you have cast-to-cast delay, well, like write, read, but different bank groups. Then you have cast-to-cast delay specifically for read operations, because there's a separate one for writes, but in the same bank group. And then you have, like write, same bank group as a separate register as well. Actually, what does ACES call all of these? We have read, different rank, read, different dim, write, different rank, write, different dim, read, write, different rank, read, different dim, write, different rank, write, different dim, read, write, same rank. Right. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Man, this is, it's just, like, this makes sense. Like, this is why, like, on, say, like, if you look at, like, AMD DDR5 timings versus Intel DDR5 timings, you'll notice how, like, SC on AMD, right? So the same chips, like, the different group, different group timings on AMD is, like, 1, right? Whereas on Intel for DDR5, it's 8. And it's like, how does that work? And it's like, well, they're just counting the delays differently. 1 on AMD means a 0 cycle delay. Like, you go from one read command to another read command immediately, as long as they're in different groups. And on Intel, there's an 8 cycle gap between them, because you can't, like, a read operation takes 8 clock cycles, right? So it's still the same thing, though, because on AMD, it's like AMD starts counting after the read burst, whereas Intel starts counting at the read command. And so we're basically seeing the same thing here, where, like, ASRock timing configurator is counting from the read, is counting from the read command, whereas memtweakit is counting from the read burst, the end of it. For DDR4, a burst is 8 cycles long. I mean, 4 cycles long, not 8. That's why it's 4. And DDR5 is 8 cycles, so you have 8, right? Anyway. So, yeah, so that's why, like, you have 0s here and a 4 here. And because, like, it means the same thing, but, like, there's no, like, it's not standardized, and it annoys me. Anyway, so read to write same rank 3, read to write different dim 4. I mean, different dim, different rank doesn't matter. Like, this you need this because this covers, like, same rank, different group, read, write. This covers read, same group, write, same group. This is read, write, different group, and same group, I think. Wait, can you do same? I might be misremembering that. But either way, this one, like, covers all scenarios, so you don't need, like, another, like, you don't need a read, write long there. Because, yeah, I don't think you can do it in the same group ever. Or something like that. And then read. And then we have write, read. Wait, write, read doesn't have... Oh, I guess that doesn't have its own separate timing for some reason. For, like, same rank. And I'm not sure why. I'd have to think about it. And I'm not going to do that on stream. Because, yeah, the stream's been 3 hours at this point. So I honestly kind of want to finish here. So we'll do one more. And that'll be it for today's stream. Because basically, I am no longer able to comprehend numbers. That's what we're running into. Oh, I guess, yeah, refresh interval is maxed out. I didn't even get to that, but yeah, it's maxed out. On X99, you can't set it above 32,000. That's still more adjustment range than what you get on Ryzen, where you can't change it at all on AM4. Oh, and on AM3, it's really awkward because it's like you get to adjust it in literal microseconds. And it also doesn't have that much adjustment range. Anyway, so I grabbed a random DDR3 setup, apparently. what do we have here? 4 gigabit Hynix MFR, which as far as I know is like awful from a performance perspective. But I don't remember why exactly. 1.65 volts on the memory, 4790K, 4.4 gigahertz all-core. That's low for a 4790K. That's like bad. I mean, if it's not delidded, that makes sense. But yeah, that's not great. Like 4790Ks, even like on average, they do like you should be able to do like 4.6, 4.7. Really, really, really good ones do like 5 gigahertz. But like a lot of them will do like 4.6. So I'm guessing this isn't delidded, and that's why it's at 4.4. Because otherwise, like you shouldn't be having issues going above that. Because that is really low for a Haswell refresh CPU for a Devil's Canyon. Right? That was Devil's Canyon. Yeah, man. It's been so long. Anyway, well, this is 2400, 11, 13, 13, 31. So, I mean, I guess we can see the problem, can't we? There are DDR4 memory sticks that do lower timings at 2400 than this does. Especially at this voltage. RAS to RAS is 4. That make yeah, that's not going to go lower because your burst length is 4. Refresh cycle is 264. Yeah, that's like DDR4 territory. Refresh interval is XMP. Write recovery is DDR4 level. RTP is DDR4 level. TFAW is horrendous. TCKE is fine. Write to read delay is, I don't know, probably okay. Like that doesn't seem like a complete disaster. It's also not that important compared to, say, TFAW. That TFAW is a disaster. That refresh interval is a catastrophe. Cast write latency at 10, which, yeah, okay, I mean, that's not that big a deal compared to some of the other timings. Read 4, read different rank. Do you even have different ranks? Oh, yeah, you do have different ranks, so that's not great. I'd probably try to tighten that. It could probably do 6. Might even do 5. Write to read. I don't know enough about DDR3, but that looks bad. Write to read different rank 5. Wait, why could you do a write? Why could you transition from a write to a read operation in less cycles than going from a read to another read operation? Yeah, so I would definitely try to set this to 5. I don't see any reason it couldn't be 5 if this can be 5. Same for, well, write to write. Actually, no. Yeah, no, write to... I'd try to set this to 5 as well. I'm less certain that this would work at 5, but I would definitely try to set it there. TWR pre at 30. This is like DDR4. Even some DDR5 can do 30 TWR pre. And we have a power down enable timing, so we'll just ignore that one. Read write 11. That seems, I'm pretty sure that's like DDR4 level, isn't it? Am I misremembering what DDR4? Oh wait, no, that's the wrong kind of DDR4. Was this DDR4? It's an Intel system. Yeah, this is, yeah. Read write. Read write. Yep, this is like DDR4 level, except we're at DDR3 speeds. So, you know, bad. I'm not necessarily certain it'll go much lower though. Like that's the thing, is like I don't know enough about DDR3. At least it's 1T command rate. I guess that's something. And to be fair, on DDR4 1T, I mean DDR3 1T command rate is a lot more important than it is on like DDR4, just because the clocks are so much higher with DDR4. So my Samsung 2 gigabit PDI does 10, 12, 10, 27 at 1.65 at least. Yeah, like as far as I know, there's no good 4 gigabit DDR3 except Samsung DDI. No, that's 2 gigabit, isn't it? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, so yeah, this looks absolutely horrendous. And with MFR, as far as I know, it can clock really high. So as long as your CPU is decent and your motherboard is decent, which you have an impact. So yeah, this is disappointing, is what it is. You have an impact. Literally one of the best DDR3 overclocking motherboards ever, and you're running DDR3 2400 on MFR, which is like known for doing like 2600 plus. Actually, it's known for doing over 3000, but you know, I'm trying to be realistic here. And going over 3000 is actually really hard. Like most CPUs won't really be able to do that, I don't think. At least not stable. But like 2600 or like 2800 on an impact with a 4790K and MFR, as far as I know, should be totally doable. You won't even really have to loosen the timings because this is, yeah, like I think TRCD 13 should work at 2600, and then at like 2800 you might have to go to 14. And you might, like 2800, I think you'd be looking at like 12, 14, 14, 14, or like 12, 15, 15 maybe. And 2600, I think 11, 13 should actually work. Like over 2500 on X79. For X79, was that Ivy Bridge or Sandy Bridge? Because Sandy, like those are very different things. Like Ivy Bridge can go over 2600, and Sandy Bridge is like 2500 is impressive for Sandy Bridge. Ivy. Okay, well, not impressive. Though I don't know how much variance the Ivy Bridge memory controllers have. Could be quite a lot. I know the Ivy Bridge like mainstream CPUs did have like a lot of variance where like some chips would like hard wall at like 2200 or something, and some would go all the way to like 2800. But I think 4790Ks generally you should be able to go over 2600. Especially on an impact. Anyway, yeah, so this is terrible, and you should, like, do something about it. I have a Maximus 7 Ranger. On a Ranger, you should still be able to do, like, 2600-ish. Like, the funny thing with DDR3 is, like, because it clocks so low, the board matters a lot less for the frequency. Will the video be available later? Yes. No crazy music today. I don't play the music during the RAM timing streams because, like, there's not gonna be a lot of silence as I'm like working on something else. Is my thought process on it, right? Like, whereas if I'm overclocking something, then I don't want the stream to just be quiet because with like me randomly saying things. Anyway, but yeah, with like DDR3, like up to like 2600, you don't really need a special motherboard. It's mostly just the CPU. And then past 2600, the board starts to maybe matter. Max safe daily voltage for S4E. Honestly, I'd be perfectly happy to run it at like 1.65. Like S4E is borderline indestructible. And unlike B-die, it actually works at very high voltages. Like, the main reason you wouldn't ever want a daily 8 gigabit B-die at 2 volts is that you need to max mem in order for it to be stable at all. Like, it's literally unusable unless you block most of the memory from being accessible. But, so you tell Windows to not address more than like a gigabyte per stick, right? So you're, like, you don't have any memory capacity afterwards, or like 2 gigabytes per stick. But S4E is perfectly functional even at like 2.1 volts. Now, I wouldn't daily that, but it does work. So, yeah. With S4E, like the voltage is basically like like the voltage limit is what do you feel comfortable with And for the sake of the memory controller, I probably wouldn't daily anything above 1 point. The thing is, I've never heard of anybody breaking a DDR4 memory controller. Not an Intel one, anyway. An X99 even, I think, has like the X99 memory controller, I think even supports DDR3. So, yeah, I think 1.65. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't mind running 1.65 on S4E at all. Like, I would not question that at all. More than that, I think it would still probably be fine. But I'm less willing to, like, tell other people to go do that. Will I be doing another live stream, like another RAM timing, reacting to RAM timings live stream next Sunday? Yes. The plan is that I'll do these every Sunday until they either stop making money or I get bored of them. And to be completely honest, I'm already kind of bored of them, but the super chat priority thing does seem to work. So I feel bad about saying that, but it's true. Like, yeah. We'll be back next week with better timings. Well, if you make it to the start, then like that, it's probably the best way to get in is probably to be right at the start. Maybe we could spice things up. How important is RAM on an X3D? Not very. I don't know how much exactly because like I don't do game testing, right? So, but like I wouldn't like spend a ton of time. Like if you have an X3D CPU, I basically wouldn't stress out about pushing the memory to the limit. I still don't see a reason that you would want to run an XMP profile, like all default settings, because they're terrible. So, and it really, like, it takes minimal effort to absolutely demolish the performance of like an XMP profile without having to put in the work that like top, like your maxed out settings require, right? Like, so if you're on a Ryzen CPU running 6200, like 6000 or 6200 in 1-to-1 mode with good timings, if you have Hynix sticks, isn't really like a high, like doesn't really require a lot of effort, right? And if you're on Intel, like even 6800 with like tight timings is better than like a 7200 XMP profile, right? Or probably even a 7600 XMP profile, depending on the motherboard you're using. Because like Asus motherboards will actually like set your TREFI higher than XMP profiles do. And like Asus does a bunch of little tweaks to the timing so that the XMP performance isn't completely horrendous. I'm not sure if the other board vendors have started doing that as well, but Asus definitely does that because you load up an XMP profile on Asus boards and the timings are better than they should be probably. So yeah. What? 2 volts? B-die typically at 2 volts runs 4000, 12, 11, 11. You got the timings backwards. What? Last week's? Nope, it's up. It's definitely up. I made a screw up towards the end where I like accidentally clicked on the wrong scene and it's and like I had to go blur it out and because I am bad at like using the video editing functionality built into YouTube, it took 2 attempts and each attempt took like several hours to render, so it took like a day to get it up, or 2 days to get the stream up, but it is now public. No, if you go to the channel and like I'll just show you how to get there, right? Like so you go to my channel. I'm just going to mute the tab because I don't really want to hear myself. You click on live and it's right there. And yeah, there's like And like right towards the end, there's like a blur for like a couple frames. That took literally a day to implement. I went to videos. Well, it's a live stream, isn't it? Like, I mean, I also find this kind of annoying with YouTube because it used to be that everything just went into videos and then like they added shorts and then after that they also added like the separate section for live. But yeah. So all live streams are in the live stream section. Anyway, that'll be it for this stream. I should probably stop it before I manage to botch it somehow and it needs blurring for another 8 hours. So yeah, thanks for all the super chats. As I said earlier, I will keep, like, these will be a regular thing on Sunday, though I'm not necessarily going to keep the time regular, because I would like it to not be, like, time zone, like, I want to try to be at a good time for different time zones. And, like, I don't care when I go to bed or whatever, so, you know. Like, today I decided we're going to do it early. And next Sunday, I might do it, like, at 4 a.m. Actually, I'll probably not do it at 4 a.m. because as far as I know, 4 a.m. UK, most people who watch this channel are not awake. Yeah. I don't know what hour the next one will be at, but it probably won't be at noon. You always miss this because US time? The last one was as like 12 p.m. UK, which I think is decent for US, at least based on when WAN show starts. Like, the LTT WAN show is usually like 1 a.m. for me, or 2 a.m. So, like, and it's midnight now. I don't think I have too many Australian viewers, though. So, I'm sorry, but this is about as good a time as you're gonna get. Midday UK. I guess I could do morning, like Europe morning. And that'll be like night Australia. YouTube didn't put it in my feed. I just woke up. Well, I've been streaming for like 3 hours, so that kind of makes sense. Also, personally, I use the subscriptions tab on YouTube. Like my YouTube link literally goes to YouTube/subscriptions, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it goes YouTube/feed/subscriptions. Because it used to be that, like, at one point, like, I remember this vividly. It used to be that the subscriptions feed always showed you the latest content in chronological order, right? That's how YouTube first worked. Was you go to your subscriptions and whatever was posted most recently was at the top of your subscriptions. And then you would scroll down and you would see things in chronological order. And then YouTube had the genius idea that it would be really funny if they shuffled it around based on what they think you want to watch from your subscriptions. Which led to me checking my subscriptions manually for like several years. I would literally go to YouTube and go through the channels I am subscribed to by hand because the subscriptions feed was useless. And then a couple years ago, they fixed it, probably because the homepage is now useless, which is fine because it was always useless. But yeah, so like they've been trying to like do the homepage to be more reactive or whatever. So I just go through, like, you can now use subscriptions and they actually like work. Like, they will show you content from people you follow and like are subscribed to in chronological order. Yeah, I don't think I've noticed stuff missing from the subscriptions feed. So that's literally my personal YouTube link, is goes straight to subscriptions, because the homepage likes to shove random garbage in your face that you're not subscribed to. So yeah. Are you in UK? No, I'm in the UK. Anyway, so yeah, that'll be it for this stream. There will be another one on next Sunday. Not the same time, probably later. I don't know. We'll see. I'll decide on Sunday when it'll be. The homepage depends on your watch history. Yeah, I doubt that. I really doubt that. Because, like, sometimes the homepage will have, like, random videos for, like... And this is one thing I don't get, is, like, sometimes you'll have a video that gets, like, stuck on the homepage for, like, a week, right? Like, there's, like this video from this creator I'm not subscribed to that I've never even heard of them, and it's just there for a week. It's like, YouTube has decided that I should really watch this, and it's like I didn't click on it the first time. I didn't click on it the third time. This is like it's been 7 days, YouTube. When will you get the message? I'm not going to click on this. So anyway, yeah, that's it for the stream. So thanks for watching. Thanks for the super chats. If you'd like to support the channel in other ways than super chats, there are links below the video that you can click on. I mean, below the live stream, which is technically a video, so that still counts. Anyway, that's it. So thanks and goodbye.